Hello and welcome back to another episode of Diplostrats. I'm here once again with Ezio. Hi Ezio.
Hello.
And today we're going to be looking at my Imperial Diplomacy game. Myself and Ezio both played a game as the Spanish Empire. Ezio's videos on that have concluded. I won't give spoilers as to the results of those, but you should go ahead and watch those ones first, I think, because we may mention it over the course of the series. But this one is my own game, so you will get to see balance of power truly in action. Maybe succeeding or maybe failing.
Yep.
Hopefully, it will go a little bit better than my Bornu game.
Hopefully.
Alright.
For some context for the viewers, I have done my best to stay out of his game. Unfortunately, I am in the Discord servers where this has all happened, so I do know the ending of the game and the results, and a couple of key highlights. But I've really tried to not follow anything of it, so I can actually react and ask honest questions for you guys. But I'm not a true. I have been spoiled as a result of this game, and let me tell you, you don't want to get spoiled on this one. It's gonna be a doozy.
I will say I am obviously spoiled on the results of this. But
You think?
actually, I'm spoiled less than you would think, because at least the start of this game was 4 months ago as of today, I think. Which was a long time ago,
flies,
and I have a terrible memory, so hopefully I will be able to explain everything I'm doing. It is fully possible that some moves were moments of madness that I do not remember. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, quick notes about Imperial Diplomacy. You should probably know these by now if you're familiar with the channel, but some differences in rules to standard. The victory condition is to reach this victory SC number over here. It's different for various powers. You also need to be 25% of your victory condition ahead of the next player down. The percentage is a little weird, but we'll talk about that when it gets important. It shouldn't be important for these first few videos, at least. The other thing, units in this variant can take a special action called coring. If you are standing on an SC you own, and it is not a cored SC, so if it's a white dot or if it's a dot that doesn't belong to you, for example, you can core it by entering the action the unit there cores. It takes away that unit's move for the turn. It means that that unit cannot be supported in any way. And if you manage to do that successfully 2 turns in a row without anyone else attacking that unit, it will become a home supply center. So you will be able to build there. Apart from that, this variant is exactly the same as standard diplomacy, just a lot bigger. It's honestly a fantastic variant, which is why we're making so many videos on it at the moment. We will probably be going back to standard diplomacy at some point soon, but honestly, I've been incredulous at just how much fun this variant is. So, really glad to be doing another one on it.
Yeah.
With that, I guess I would talk a bit about like pre-game strategy and stuff. But I didn't actually think about it all that much. I know there was a tactics channel in the main Imperial Discord, Imperial Diplomacy Discord, and lots of people like giving their thoughts on the best openings and stuff. While openings are really useful, I find that to be less important, especially when you're playing a massive colonial power like this, because so much of your opening is going to be based on your relations with other people. Like, do you want to open aggressively against the Ottomans? Well, it depends whether the Ottomans are friendly to you or not. And if you kind of lock in your mind that the best opening is the one that's aggressive against the Ottomans, I think it cuts you out of like a lot of options that could be worthwhile for you to do in the game, right? So
Yep. Options are good. Going into a game knowing what you're gonna do is not always great.
yeah, exactly. So I went in basically without any plan. Which is always a great place to be. The one important thing that did happen before the game started was probably the luckiest moment I had in this entire game. And that had to do with a certain player called Salt. And you can hear Ezio laughing. If you're not familiar with the backstory of Salt, he has been present in quite a lot of these, the most recent videos on the channel. Myself and Salt have a bit of a history with one another, let's just say. In my Bornu game of Imperial, we were constantly at war. In the biggest game of all time, we were constantly at war. In this last England game, even though that happened after this game, but whatever, we were constantly lying to each other. And in the pre-game, he was making a big deal about the fact that he had chosen Portugal as his #1 pick. And when I got sorted into a game with him, I was just like, oh my god, really? And I was wishing he got put into the game with Ezio, right? Because Ezio, you have good relations with him. You actually get on really well.
It's fantastic. This most recent game where that CaptainMeme was complaining about Salt lying to him all the time, he was perfectly honest with me, except for the times that he wasn't, that I was dishonest with him. But we both smiled at each other as we stabbed each other in the back. Whereas, it doesn't work that way with CaptainMeme, and I don't understand it. But I think Salt's a great guy. I'm a huge fan. Truly love his work. 10 out of 10.
Well, yeah. And for that reason, he really should have been in your game and everything would have been a lot better, right?
It would not have been a lot better. No, neither one of us would have won that game. It would have gone really badly.
Yes. Well, Salt has a bit of a reputation for being a very stabby player, and particularly with me, we don't get on very well. Even though we do get on very well outside the game, we don't tend to in the game. But yes, Salt had been making a really big deal about how he was going to play as Portugal, and he was really looking forward to that, and I was obviously not looking forward to that, because I knew I was playing as Spain. Technically, you were supposed to enter into a lottery with your country selections, and, like, you get assigned things, but because myself and Ezio were doing a video, we were both just assigned Spain off the bat, because we asked to be.
Yeah, and Flare said yes.
One of the benefits of running a YouTube channel. And then Salt didn't get assigned Portugal. I was so happy. He got placed in Russia, which is like the best place he could possibly be on the board for me, because as you will notice, I have territory here, I have territory here, I have territory here, I have no territory anywhere near Russia. So, I would not need to play with Salt at all this game.
Also, Russia kind of sucks, and it probably explodes, and so that's a great place to have your rival get put.
Yes. This version of Imperial Diplomacy, Imperial Dip hasn't really been updated into the next version yet, but I think buffing Russia is something they're looking at, because it's just, I don't know, like, this whole area is so spread out and vulnerable, right? And you don't really have that much in the way of, like, a solid core you can expand out into. The more you expand out, the more vulnerable you kind of become. Plus, you always have to watch out for convoys coming in from the north up here.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely somewhere where you want Salt to be. So, instead, I get placed adjacent to Bumble, who you may know from our biggest game of all time, where Ezio brutally murdered him.
I mean, hi.
Are you giving an excuse here, or are you just...
I just said hi.
Anyway, praise Bumble.
I know what you want from me, man.
I was one of the Bumbles in that game, so I already had great relations with Bumble coming into this game, even though I, like, barely had talked to him. So that was a really nice surprise off the bat, and something I really liked. But that's pretty much...
He seems like a pretty wonderful person to have as an ally. Although for you, I know that you are paranoid about your allies who talk a lot. And so to that end, I would expect him to be a terrifying ally because you know he's going to be the most active player on the board.
So, kind of, but this was an experience game, right? Both of our games were experience games. In my case, there were a lot of players on this board who talked a lot. Basically everyone. Even players who weren't quite as experienced. Like, I know Poland, it was their first diplomacy game ever. They requested
Uh,
to be put in an experience bracket because they thought they'd be familiar with this kind of game, right? And they actually
okay.
were really good on the negotiations. Like, they were pretty damn active. They were more active than a lot of the players I've played with in, like, actual competitive games. So, uh, this whole board was massively active. Bumble didn't really stand out in that regard, even though he definitely was active as well.
Awesome.
So, yeah, honestly, it was a really great game off the bat. Speaking of which, I guess we should jump right in. Should I just go straight to moves, or should I talk a bit about what I was thinking on this first turn?
To you, if you have thoughts that you think were really cool, something that was critical pregame, then I think that'd be important to share. But if, as you said, you didn't really have any plans, you didn't have that much going on, I think we can see the moves, and then you can explain what was going on with the moves.
Yeah, I think generally I talk to everyone. I remember writing. I remember writing in my void. I went back and looked at what I wrote in my void. I said that basically there wasn't anyone I felt super tight with off the bat, except for England. They made me feel very good about the alliance off the bat, but also like England outside of the Caribbean, you're not really interacting with them very much as Spain. I mean, the Caribbean is super important, so that is super important. But yeah, no one else. There wasn't really anyone else I was massively close to, right?
I mean,
Everyone
it's
was generally pleasant, but they also gave me the impression that they were being equally pleasant to everyone else.
yeah, and it's so early in the game. People can be pleasant while stabbing you in 01 all the time, so it's tough to have a too strong sense of who your allies are.
Yes, this actually has reminded me there is a very important storyline that we do need to cover before we go on to the moves. And that is what is happening in the Americas here. So, the Caribbean is probably the most important region for me of the Americas, at least in the early game, but it wasn't like the Caribbean felt fine because it was just with France, who obviously has good reason to just stick with me off the bat. Spain has kind of a decent attack on France when they want to, but France has almost no way to reasonably attack Spain in the early games. So I think they were. I was fairly confident they would stick with me at least for the start of the game, right? And as mentioned, I had great relations with England, and Poland. I felt decent about too. They did ask for Caracas, which I wasn't too happy about, but I did just say, yeah, you can take it, because they said they were going to go for Barbados first. I was like, if you're going for Barbados first, then I'll say whatever you
Uh,
want me to say, and then I'll take
yeah,
Caracas anyway, probably, right?
yeah. Sorry, if they're taking Barbados in year one, then
Yeah.
yeah, we don't have to worry. Caracas is ours whenever we feel like. Okay, I say ours. I'm gonna probably say that a lot. I'm rooting for meme here. So
Yes. We are Team Diplostrats, especially after the last
yeah,
video.
it helps that I was also Spain, and so I feel exactly the same way. Like, so yeah.
Yep. So the important things that actually happen in the Americas are in negotiations aren't around the Caribbean, they're around North America and South America, and they're kind of interlinked. Immediately, basically, I I already don't feel great about my initial communications with Shoshone, which is not good, as Ezio can say. This border is not a nice one for France to deal with Shoshone on, right?
Spain to deal. Yeah.
Sorry, Spain. Yeah. Mainly because of this little link between Nueva Vizcaya and Kiowa. These, like, it's very easy for Shoshone to surround your unit, and it's kind of difficult for you to get up against their capital and their like inland centers, right? I suppose the one big benefit is that as Spain, you can fund your war from elsewhere. So it's not that big of a deal. If you are growing elsewhere, you can just pump extra units in here, even if you're losing stuff on the front line. It very quickly got worse, because initially it was just a bad feeling about Shoshone, and then I got messages from Aymara and a couple from like other powers, I can't remember who, basically saying, hey, Inuit has set up this regional alliance in North America that is gonna go and murder all the colonials. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's why I'm getting such bad vibes from Shoshone. I didn't get to them in time, right? I'm kind of curious, Ezio, how would you go about trying to deal with that in your immediate negotiations?
I would tell Athapaska, hey, Shoshone is going to be attacking me, and I'm going to be defending, so there's going to be openings. This is Imptip, so I expect you're going to want to take all of your neutrals first in this first year, but know that going into the second year, you're going to have an opportunity here. And if you don't deal with Shoshone now, you're probably going to get sandwiched by them and Inuit in the future if you go along with their kill all the colonials path. So they're going to attack me. They're going to be exposed. You should kill them with me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's about all I would say.
I mean, I think that's a perfect line, and in fact, it was what Athapaska came and said to me before I had the chance to say it to them. Which suddenly...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, suddenly made me feel a lot better about everything, right? If you have this giant regional alliance, and one player in the middle of it is saying, it's alright, I'll come to your aid, you're like, oh, okay, that alliance isn't really a problem for me anymore. Unfortunately,
the big regional alliance really needs every regional to be in it for it to be a threat.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, if these powers push out, right, then they leave gaps in their lines behind. And Athapaska is absolutely the power that's best placed to take advantage of that. Just being in the middle of everything. Now, it wasn't perfect. They did say to me that they weren't willing to go in immediately, but after Shoshone is weakened, they can go in, right? And you're like, well, are Shoshone going to be that weakened that quickly? I basically weighed it up and thought, hey, is it worth like trying to make anything else happen in this regional alliance, trying to form cracks, maybe go to Shoshone and say, hey, Athapaska is going to go after you, but I judged that that's too risky, right? If you go to someone and say that, when they're clearly against you, they could go and confront Athapaska, and maybe Athapaska backs out of being willing to do it in the first place and goes back to the regional alliance.
Yeah, Athapaska gave you enough strength there. If Athapaska had been a little less open about it, I would have been incredibly tempted to just leak Athapaska's stuff to Shoshone.
Mm-hmm.
But since Athapaska's like, yo, I'm here to capitalize, they're going to be weak, then hearing that makes me feel very comfortable as the defender, so I wouldn't have done anything crazy here.
Yeah, and also, it's like, I mentioned that Nueva Vizcaya is really hard to hold. I think Apache is too, if they're coming in. But behind that line, you're kind of okay, right? If you,
Gulf of Mexico is really nice.
If you've got Gulf of Mexico, yeah, you've got Saltillo, you've got Zacatecas. Yeah, they can bring fleets around here, but these provinces are massive. They can't get many fleets adjacent to anything useful of yours. The biggest threat they have is maybe convoying something into Yucatan, and in order to do that, they need to get into Guatemala Basin first. It's just a massive pain for them to push past this part of the line, right? So I was fairly confident about holding out long enough that Athapaska could come in, even if they delayed their attack by a while. So that was fine. The other interesting thing that was happening here was Aymara was one of the people who tipped me off about this Northern Regional Alliance, right? And I was really happy with that. You would think that's like... For one, Well, okay. So you would think that would be a really good reason to establish good relations with Aymara. But me, being a bit of a paranoid person, was already kind of thinking, hang on, how did Aymara know about this in the first place? Because it's not like they look like they need to communicate with Inuit very much, right? And Shoshone wasn't all that talkative. Yeah, maybe these two talk and say, hey, we need to take out Spain together, but it just felt a little bit off. And then I got a message from England saying, hey, Aymara was talking to me about attacking you together. I was like, okay, I feel like Aymara might be actively encouraging this alliance to form in the first place, and then tipping me off about it to try and make sure I'm distracted and focusing this way, right? It's maybe a bit much to extrapolate all of that from what was happening. But it was my thought at the time.
Because it's exactly what we would do. To be clear, as Aymara, you would love for Spain to be under lots of pressure from the north. No matter if you want to work with Spain or attack Spain, if your ally is under a lot of pressure, that's good for you often. It means they're not likely going to be able to attack you. So because it's such a commonplace move, and because of how confident we are that would happen, we assume Aymara is doing.
Yes. Yeah. It is exactly what I would do in the Aymara position. I think that's your read on that is 100% correct. So yeah, whether that was actually true or not is an interesting question, but I was also looking at this position, and it looks a lot like the Bornu position from the initial Imp Dip game, right? So by which I mean a big clump of home SCs that are all quite small and clumped together, and then a bunch of non-SCs around them, and I don't know. It initially struck me as kind of a defensible power.
Uh-huh. Okay.
In retrospect, I think that's a terrible assessment.
I had no idea that was part of your justification for this attack. Sorry. Excuse me. Continue.
No, so I'm curious to hear about your thoughts on how defensible Aymara is.
It looks terrible. I saw Aymara as long as they don't YOLO into me at the start, which is insane from them, their position is terrible. And if they YOLO into me, their position is even worse. Like, Mapuche, if Mapuche didn't exist, you can't see them on the map. You have to scroll south a little bit. And it looks like they're so far away, and what are they really going to do? They got 2 fleets. But Mapuche is going to head north.
Yep.
And they're going to head maybe northeast first. I think they usually will take the coastal centers on the east and get Cordoba and Asuncion, Buenos Aires. But they're going to hit Aymara next.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how you play Mapuche and don't get locked into a war with Aymara quickly. And because these two powers have to fight each other, they're both struggling. And Aymara has such a little naval presence. Axur is their only coastal core. So they're really going to struggle to control the coast, so they're not going to have much pressure. But trying to control the land in the center of South America seems impossible. I don't know how you're supposed to play Aymara. They seem unplayable to me. And then if you look into the deep dives of the tactics here, I think Lima is too far away. I think Lima should be in Huamanga or whatever, or they should be merged into the same province.
I feel
something.
like maybe another thing that might solve it is if Choima had a connection to Quechua here.
Yeah,
right.
Something like that could work too.
Anything that puts an army closer to here, because right now Spain can bounce you out of Peru Basin on the first turn. Or just go into Peru Basin to threaten you, and there's nothing you can do about that. Because if you bounce them out, they still get the progress against you by going into Quechua, and you can't do anything. And you can't even move an army to back this up. You have to go up to Peno instead, and that's just not very
slow.
Effective.
Yeah, at attacking Spain in the south early. And so because of this, as opposed to looking at Spain's northern relationship, where if Shoshone wants to attack Spain at the start, they can, and they're likely to take a center off of Spain, Aymara does not have that same luxury. And Aymara only starts with 4 units, not 5, and Aymara seems really tough. So I looked at Amara and I did not see a strong potential threat. I saw uh, a little tiny country that begs me to keep them alive.
So my thinking with this, right, was that initially, so I played Bornu in the first Imperial Diplomacy variant, which was an insanely defensible power, and honestly, and so broken that after I played it, they removed it from the game. Goodbye, Bornu. So this country looks very similar in that it's four supply centers crammed around a non-supply center, and that non-supply center is very difficult to get to, right? You have to get a fleet into Navska Ridge, or you have to come up via Kalama. I kind of looked at this and thought, okay, there's going to be a core of 5 units here, and if they're all pushed in together, those units can aid each other decently well. If they put a unit in Guaki, they can probably hold out for a decent amount of time. I think the big difference between this power and Bornu, or at least a big... Actually, there's two I can think of, right? Bornu, its strength was in this kind of pattern of territories, but also in that all of the territories around it were massive. So instead of having Wamanga, Quechua, and Pano, this would all be one territory, right? Which means you just have to defend that one territory and they can't invade you.
Yeah.
Obviously, not the case with Aymara. The other big thing is that Bornu was entirely inland. They were over here at the Kanem area. The Sahara Desert didn't exist at the time. So
Yeah.
you didn't have to worry about multiple types of units. You could use any of your units to defend anywhere. Whereas, as Aymara, you have a coast, you have to defend this area, and you can only use your fleets and your fleet builds from Exura to defend it. That makes a huge difference. Plus,
Yep.
Bornu had a lot of easy expansion routes. Aymara does not.
Yeah.
But
And
just
then,
on the defensive end, Aymara is easily not as powerful of a country as Bornu
yeah,
was.
the one final point that I need to stress is that Bornu was in no one's natural expansion path.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody needed to go into that area. Sure, Abyssinia might want to, sure, Congo might want to, sure, Ottomans might want a center or two. But with Amara, you're right smack dab in the expansion path for Mapuche. It's like 100%. For Spain, you probably want to go there. Even Portugal can continue going west. And if you look at the expansion for Amara, if you take Borora or Madeira, then suddenly you are putting yourself in the eyes of the colonials. So people want to take your centers. Uh, Bornu didn't have that. So yeah, Amara, good luck. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Also, kind of important note, if these powers aren't going to war at the start, then probably the natural divide here is Spain and Putumayo, Netherlands gets into Amazon from Palmobo or from St. Louis, and Aymara ends up in Madeira, right? So you end up in a triangle between Spain and Netherlands, if you're playing as Aymara there. And notably, even though Spain isn't adjacent to Netherlands over here, they have a pretty significant area here that they're together in. And in the early game, as a colonial, you really don't want to piss off other colonials who can attack you in regions that are really strategically important for you, right? Here,
Yeah.
if Netherlands comes after me off the bat, I don't think I keep this colony for very long. I have to rely on the regionals around me to push Netherlands back, maybe on Portugal, but Portugal only has one unit here. So I want to keep Netherlands on side. So if you're playing as Aymara and you're trying to convince these two powers to go against each other, no, they're probably just going to come for you. It's so much
That's
easier.
when you hope that one of them is salt.
Yeah, that would certainly help. But anyway, this is a lot of words to say. I thought Aymara was a very strong power. In retrospect, I think it is not. I was very concerned about the threat they presented, and in addition to that, I'd heard about this whole, North American regionals. I kind of assumed that might be Aymara pushing for that. So I decided to attack Aymara off the bat. And Notably, the Aymara player and the Mapuche player weren't particularly friendly with each other from previous games either, so I thought maybe I can leverage that as well. So, that about brings an end to everything relevant that happened here, just because in every other region I was basically just being as friendly to everyone as possible and saying I'll take my natural centers, right?
Yeah, and I'm assuming you phrased it exactly like that. If I'm only going to take natural centers,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
when asked to extrapolate upon that, you gave no information. Yeah.
It's like for the entire game, I'll be completely happy with you. Actually, there was one other thing, which is Naples over here, right? Yeah, it's a Spanish core off the bat. I don't value it particularly highly. My immediate instinct with Naples was I want to sell this to the highest bidder in order to gain a more like strong core over here right off the bat. I'm curious whether that would be
Sweet.
your instinct too.
I mean, that wasn't my instinct. If I play this again, I'd be more interested in a move like that. Um, I would probably agree to a core swap with the Ottomans to say, hey, I'll take Tunis, you take Naples, and we both are more secure here. Naples has its dot in the Ionian. Tunis obviously borders up Oran Sea. It's a thing that I would probably agree to year two, is what I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I did sell Naples in my game, for what it's worth. In I think year two, maybe.
Yeah, so
All right, so I guess I do feel similarly, and I did feel similarly.
basically immediately I said to Austria, hey, you can have Naples, because I want Austria's fleets basically as happy with me as possible and going this direction.
Yep,
So I was like, okay, you can have basically the entirety of Italy, I'll go over here and take the islands, and then we can attack Ottomans together, right?
sure.
And then this wasn't like a planned sneaky thing. This was just me being too happy to agree to everything. I also sold it to Ottomans. I said, hey, Ottomans, you can take Naples if you want to. I'm gonna be going over here.
Yup. When Captain Meme does it, it's a happy accident, and oops, I forgot that I already sold it. Oh my god.
I mean, I hadn't forgotten that I already sold it. I just figured, you know, if Austria does take it off me before Ottomans get there, because obviously Austria can get there in year one, right? Ottomans can't. They have to go via Ionian Sea or something. Then I can just say, oh, that's unfortunate. Austria took it first. I guess you're going to have to go attack them to get what's rightfully yours, right? uh, so, I think that works out fine.
Oh, I'm totally happy to sell it to multiple countries, just except that that's what you're doing. Like,
uh, so notably in the Mediterranean, right? Even though I've like happily offered Ottomans this Naples build, because they couldn't get to it in year one, they still wanted to take Sicily, which I think is very rude of them, and they should have left it to me. But France was wanting to take Corsica with their fleet, which leaves me Sardinia and Baleares, and I can obviously set up a convoy to go into Tangier as well. I had good relations with Portugal. I wasn't feeling amazing about my relations with Portugal. I was pretty convinced that they, like, long term, they wouldn't stick with me if they saw an opportunity. But with two fleets in the early game, you don't have to worry about Portugal. These are completely useless against you.
almost a YOLO for Gibraltar, which I gotta say, it would be fun to see Portugal move into Cadiz Bay.
Do you think they ever would? Like, I feel like that's so bad.
Oh, it's terrible. It's awful.
It's like, importantly, Spain has this Madrid army at the start of the game, right? You want them to get that out of there before you commit anything to attacking them. Which I did agree to do immediately. I was like, okay, I'll convoy this down to Tangier, and Portugal was very, very happy with me about that. But I was also thinking in my mind, okay, I want to keep armies kind of around here, because I'm not certain I trust him.
Sweet.
And then over here, things went, like, actually perfectly. I went and said, hey, you know, I attire Netherlands, can I take Cotabato? And they both said yes. So,
Sweet.
like, the smoothest negotiations I've ever had in a theatre, to be honest. Neither of them asked for my help against the other. They were just like, yeah, that seems naturally Spanish. Like, yeah, okay.
Naturally Spanish, right? The Sulu Sea is a Spanish thing. The Philippine Sea is Spanish. So Zamboanga and Cotabato are naturally Spanish centers. Thank you.
I mean, Zamboanga,
Sorry,
I
I'm
think,
bitter.
absolutely is a natural Spanish center.
Yeah, and so is Cotabato.
The problem with Cotabato is if Netherlands is looking to, like, guarantee as much as they possibly can on the first turn, this fleet kind of needs to go there. Because you can't...
No. R4 is C. It takes Flores.
You really think they get that off of... Oh, I guess Portugal's more likely to go this way, yeah.
Yeah, they got that core over there.
They do. They've got the pre-core, so they will be able to build there if they take it. Not in the first year, but after that point. That is a pretty good reason for Portugal to go that way. I feel like as Portugal, you're not very comfortable letting Netherlands just have a centre immediately adjacent to your home centre here, but...
Oh, I'm just bitter. It's fine. It's not particularly rational.
You will need to see Ezio's series in order to understand some of these references.
Yeah. All right. Okay, easy negotiations, get centers. I think we can see moves. Has it been 45 minutes yet?
Let me check real quick. 38. I think we need to spend another 7 minutes talking about stuff.
Yeah, we're zooming.
Alright. So, bear in mind, I think if you've seen the recent Blitz video, you will have seen an Imperial game that started after this, so the bot was all neat and stuff. It's not the case in these early ones. In these early phases, they were working on the bot through these. So you will see things like massive arrows going from UPIC to all the way to Chukchi C on this side. Just crossing the entire map. They get neater as the game goes on. But yeah, so everything in Europe goes kind of fine. There's no one attacking me, right? Everyone's doing more or less what they told me they were planning to do. I was positioning to take Marrakesh here, and Ottomans is obviously adjacent to that if they want to go in, but I'm fairly confident from early negotiations they're not going to bounce that out. So, nice start over here. The potentially important theatres here, I move in on Aymara and completely get the jump on them, right? They go down to Nazca Ridge, they go into Kalama, they basically go fully south because they're so worried about their relationship with this player. And they can't stop me taking Axura. So this is maybe maybe even more reason why Aymara is a really horrible power, right?
These moves for Spain, I think, are the optimal moves to do, whether or not you're attacking Aymara, because you can still take Madeira, / support yourself into Putumayo. You can still take Galapagos from Peru Basin. So you haven't committed to an attack yet, and the move into Peru Basin, if Aymara goes there, is annoying for you. So I think these are just the right moves to make a Spain 9 times out of 10. And oops, you can just take Exura for free as a result.
Yep. And important to note, like, if Axura doesn't bounce this move in Peru Basin, then the only way that Aymara can ever keep Axura is if they've kept this unit in Choima or moved it to Guaki or Pano or something like that, right?
Technically, the other things can move to Guaki, but, like, that's terrible, because it's the first year of Imp Dip, you're a 4-center power, you really need to build a lot. Oof.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, really, your only viable way of keeping this would have been to go to Pano instead of Chiquitano. I get why they went to Chiquitano instead. It, like, projects power on 2 different areas, and especially if they want to be focused on the south, then Baroro's kind of more important than Madeira is, right?
Chiquitano's a key center territory to fight over in South America. It's like the heart of everything. But you only have 4 units the first turn of the game. But at the same time, if you move to Pano, are you expect like and Spain does this? What happens next? You just waste 2 moves to cover Exura?
Mm-hmm.
God, I don't know.
Yeah, that just feels bad, right? Because you're using up 2 units to do that, which means 2 units are not gaining centers.
Yep.
Really, it might just be better to give up Exura and take elsewhere and just try and get those builds back at home.
Yeah, and that's like not a good place to be as a regional. Anyways, so
Yeah,
okay, you got the jump on Amara. You take Exura. There's nothing they can do. Or you're set up to take Exura. There's nothing they can do about it. How
yeah.
does things go in the north?
That
How do
is
things go in the
less
north?
happy. I tried to demilitarize Sonora with Shoshone.
Yeah.
I was like hoping, okay,
Yeah.
I'll offer you Aqua Ala, and hopefully you will just take that. I didn't have a huge amount of hope, but I was like willing to gamble on that enough that I'd go to Apache and like along here. It
Sure.
didn't feel like I really didn't want to like break the agreement with them just in case they kept to it.
Yeah.
Because if Shoshone was on my side, then I don't want to like break that alliance. That seems like a really good alliance.
Yeah. The demilitarizing Sonora, I don't. Based on the early negotiations, it just seems like a thing I'd agree to bounce there.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it was a bad move too on my part. I
well, it's
really
tough
should
because
have.
Shoshone doesn't want to bounce there. Because if you bounce in Sonora, then the army in Paiute can't take anything.
Mm,
Oh no, it can't. It can't because what happens is they actually bounce you there with Go Siute, and then they let Go Siute take Arapaho in the fall, while Paiute goes to Cheme, Habuda, whatever, which then takes Aqua Ala.
yes.
I'm gonna call that Baja California, so you can agree to that breakdown
Hmm.
with Shoshone and say I'm gonna bounce you in Sonora, but you still double in the first year. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
I
I
think
disagree with that move. You should have bounced.
that would have been much
It's
smarter.
okay.
Thankfully, it's not the end of the world because they didn't also accompany it with a move into Kiowa, right? They
Yeah.
only have one on Nueva Vizcaya, and I've still got one, so it's a bit of a guessing game on whether I
Yeah.
bounce this or not.
I think they're supposed to not bounce it, but have Arapaho tap Apache, and
Yes.
that'll keep you out of there.
For that reason, I think it's correct for me to just hold it in Apache, because even if they come to Nueva Vizcaya,
Uh,
at least I
yeah,
get the build in Saltillo, I have Apache there. That feels... Is that even a bad... No, that's probably a worse position than
and I'm
just
just taking Apache.
being
Yeah.
back in Nueva. I don't
Anyways, game's hard.
know. um,
Cool.
I also didn't bother going for Hawaii because
Yeah.
Tokugawa were pretty insistent on taking it. I was like, I really don't care about bouncing with Tokugawa into Hawaii. If I'm going for Aymara, I may as well just take Galapagos with this, right? That just seems better.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, bouncing sucks. I'd much rather take a center.
Yes. Oh, I completely forgot to mention here as well. I had negotiated with England, and they wanted to swap Saint Augustine for Belize long term. Now, I'm not in the very first year, because obviously I can't get to Belize in the first year unless I move Panama up, which just seems bad.
Yeah.
But long term, I'm curious whether you would agree to that, Ezio.
Nah.
Just because Saint Augustine is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my thinking too, right? Saint Augustine is really vital because it's your way into this entire area. It's your way into this entire area, right? It's your place where you can build stuff and send stuff this way.
Yeah.
um,
St. Augustine, in my mind, is the perfect balance between defensive and easily defended, thanks to the Gulf of Mexico being such a nice defensive position, and like Bahamas Channel not bordering it, so it's not easy to attack, but and like that fleet in Norfolk being a fleet instead of an army, so this taking Catawba doesn't threaten St. Augustine in this first year, but also it projects like Florida Current is close to a lot of locations. Building a fleet St. Augustine, moving to Florida Current, then Sargasso Sea is wonderful, or Flora Current threatening Bahamas, or armies, because you could build an army in St. Augustine and have it touch Cherokee next year. It is, I think, Spain's most important center, except for Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
But I love St. Augustine.
Yeah.
And as a result, as England, I would take it.
Yeah, I think as England, it's like really a really nice place to swap to like get. I think that was a really good proposal for England to make. I actually agreed to it. I said, yeah, sure, not this year, obviously, I'll do it in the future.
Yeah.
I had no intention of actually doing that. I wanted to talk around
sure.
to
But
swapping.
agreeing to a future swap and then not actually doing the future swap is classic. Yeah, that's good play.
My main thing was I just wanted England happy at that point, and I also wanted the idea of him swapping away Belize to be in his mind, so maybe I can agree to swap a different center for it.
Havana for Belize. That's fair.
That actually is what I end up gunning for in the near future, but we'll see how that works out. Importantly, England loses a lot of leverage in this turn, just in general across the board. You will note France goes pretty hard this way, right? The Dutch unit bounces them out of Connecticut, and perhaps most importantly, over here, they don't bounce English Channel and they don't bounce Southern Bight. So the Dutch get in here, the French get in here.
That's a guaranteed convoy to London in 01?
Yep. Because Oxford has moved up to York, right? Which is what you would expect it to do. It's a good idea. But you really need to... I feel like, having played as England in the Blitz game now, you have to bounce English Channel in 01, because there's nothing else this fleet in Nantes can really do, right?
It moves to Iberian Current and bounces Porto, because Lisbon has to go to Sea of Azores, almost always. Porto has to go to Iberian Current. And so, Nantes, like, it can bounce an Iberian Current, or it can bounce an English Channel. Those are its only moves.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
Yeah. I feel like it's most likely to go to English Channel. Basically, if it gets into English Channel, it's pretty horrendous for you. And the advantage of not bouncing it in English Channel in this variant is that you get both of these fleets mobilized, which, sure, it's okay, but where is this North Sea fleet going?
Bergen.
It goes to Bergen, right? I don't think Bergen is very holdable as England, just in general as a Year 1 game. It's gonna annoy Sweden more than anything.
Sweden is gonna conquer everything in Scandinavia at some point, so I pissed them off.
Yeah.
Swedish spies, by the way. Sweden having Trondheim and Narva as cores.
Yep.
Whatever. Let the game maker throw themselves a bone or two. I support this. Oh, I didn't put Sweden on our list.
No.
Oh my god.
Were you wanting to go Sweden? This was Ezio and I were discussing recently the potential powers we might pick in a future game. But we won't discuss that anymore because we don't want to spoil anything, right?
Yep, no spoilers here.
Right, so everything else here is going fine, right? Obviously not fine for England, but the fact
that's good for us.
Yeah, England is so friendly with me, right? And they're doing badly. I think that's generally a positive for me.
And now France being at war with England means they are unlikely to antagonize you.
Yes. Importantly, France didn't tell me about this attack in advance, right? Which is fine, that's expected. You don't really let random people know about these kind of things in case they then leak and then you get bounced out, right? But what they did do after this point is invite me to a group chat with Netherlands and say, hey, we can be a triple and work together going forward. I'm like, okay, well, I'll happily work together as a triple going forward, but in the back of my mind is these two players are working together off the bat. They're working together very closely. I'm the third wheel in this alliance, right? That's not a long-term alliance you want to be in because they will value each other over you.
You are the last person to ever invite into an alliance like this.
Mm-hmm.
You will never. Yep. Yeah, you're gonna kill one of them.
Uh,
and who are you going to kill? Is it going to be France or Netherlands?
hmm.
Watch and find out.
Well, so the interesting thing is, you can, as Spain, actually work with France against England relatively early on, right, in this region. And
Yeah.
France could have approached me and pitched that. Now, admittedly, I was friendly enough with England that I would have tipped England off, so I think they made the right call. But they could have approached me, and like that would have made me
Yeah, this
feel better
person could
about the
have
Triple
ruined it, stumped
Alliance.
their game. They could have allied with me. I would have messed with them, and I would have made their lives much worse than they did. But they didn't, and now I'm going to attack them for it because I've got a balanced power.
uh, so notably, I'm not immediately saying I'm going to attack them. Right? I am
Yeah,
pretty happy to just sit back and let England take a bit of punishment up here and just say, hey, yeah, I'll stick in this alliance. Right? At this point, Portugal and England, they're not really aligned all that much, but they're a little, like, they're kind of friendly with each other as well. They were both pushing me hard to go and attack France.
yeah,
Or
but
like,
you can say, I'll look into it for later. Absolutely, I'll gotta consider my options here. I'm not really in position to attack them. It's only 01. Gotta get my own growth, but maybe later, of
yeah,
course.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
that was my exact answer. I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
I will get my neutrals. This is
Yeah, and
what
like
I'm
to
gonna
ensure that I have the space to go and attack France when the opportunity presents itself. Please don't build anything hostile to me. Please help me in every theater so that I feel perfectly comfortable. And then once I feel perfectly comfortable, I promise I'll definitely attack France.
do. Indeed. Right, so we've looked at the Americas, I guess. Oh, I should say, like, Aymara's reaction to being stabbed like this, it wasn't anger, it was just kind of, I'm disappointed in you, which felt so much worse.
I
Because,
mean, what are they supposed to do?
I mean, yeah, at least the way they talked to me after this made me think that my initial assessment about them inciting this was probably wrong. They came across as very, very genuine in saying, like, I really wanted to work with you. But then they could just be a really good liar, and that could just be making
Yeah.
them feel that way. It's not going to make me turn around. I did have a lot of negotiation with Aymar in this phase. I basically said to them, hey, I'm gonna take Exura, like, no matter what. I think that's, with this kind of opening, in order for me to pivot away, it has to be worth my while to pivot away, and I don't see much way that that's worth it, right? Aymara did
Yeah.
pitch saying, hey, that's fine, you can take Exura with the fleet, and then just take Madeira with the army, right? And go this way with two. And that did tempt me, but it's like, okay, well, if I take Exura without support and they know I'm doing that, they always bounce it, right? I assume you would.
If I am in this position after agreeing to DMZ, Peru Basin, and Amara is a skilled player, I am supporting myself in Taxer every time.
Yes, yeah, yeah. That was my exact
Um,
thinking. I think
yeah.
if I can trust Aymara to keep to this agreement and get Exura and get units into Madeira and Putumayo, that's incredible. But you're never going to be able to trust Aymara after you just stab them. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was.
And honestly, since you're continuing to attack Amara here, that's just what your position is after taking one of their starting cores. Um, I don't sure if you really want to be in Madeira and Putumayo instead of just Axura and Putumayo. Like,
Mhm.
I'd rather just let Netherlands take it and say, "Yeah, Netherlands, let's get into Amara quick. Take Amazon, Madeira, let's go."
Yeah, I
Uh,
think that's very fair. I feel like what Aymara was angling for here was basically, you keep the fleet in Exura and then I keep my other centers and
yeah,
you just go this way, right?
dude,
um
that's so reasonable, man. I might see myself getting suckered by that.
yeah. I
I
it's
think what I would agree to is support my fleet into Axura instead of taking it with my army, and
mhm.
then saying, "Great, I'll stick to this. I will stick to our deal of taking it with the fleet. You'll build your stuff in Quella, Kolu, and Shapaya, and then I will take Madeira. You can focus on the south, and I won't go any further." Is I think what I would have accepted.
I think that would have been pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
I can remember I made them an offer something along those lines, like, hey, I'm gonna force Exura. I can't remember if I said I would go in with the fleet. But they basically rejected the offer that I said and said, hey, like, the only way we're working together is if you go in with there and go to Madeira and Putumayo. And in the end, I just said, no, I'm not going to do that. Because I've committed against you. I basically need to make sure I gain something out of it. And I don't want to give you the opportunity to bounce me back out. Mapuche was really happy with me.
Hell yeah.
As you can imagine, they were very, very happy to see Aymara under pressure, especially given they weren't all that friendly with Aymara. Unfortunately, I mean, I feel like you've played with them before. Have you played with Compope?
Wait, isn't Conpope the Mapuche from my game?
Wait, was it not Compope? Give me a second.
I think Conpope was the Mapuche from my game. That was...
Which... Hang on. I'm gonna... No, right. Mapuche in my game was Compope. I assume that you had a different Mapuche.
Then who was the Mapuche in my game?
Unless Compope has just taken over all of the Mapuches.
He might have subbed in at some point. Let's see. 8-2, Haya. Anyways, if Compope is... I recognize the name. I'm confident I've played with them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember when.
So... anyway, Compope has a bit of a reputation for not being very trustworthy, is the big thing. I think... Well, at this point, I'm thinking, okay, I think they are going to be trustworthy with me and go in on Aymara because it benefits them quite a lot to do so, right? If they take out Aymara here and I take them out with them, then they stand to gain quite a lot just by consolidating this entire area. So I was pretty confident that this would go well. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go in.
Sorry, I got names wrong. No, it was definitely not my spin.
Okay. Mapuche. My Mapuche was Compope. Anyway.
Anyways.
Yeah, everything's going fine over here. Nothing really to report. I'm going to get into Cotabato and I'm getting into Zamboanga and no one moved aggressively against me. So...
Sweet.
I'm really happy with that. Yeah. So... Important thing to mention here. I'm trying to think if there were any other major negotiations. But I think the most important thing was I actually talked with Salt a bit this phase. In fact, I'm going to move ahead to the clean map here just to make sure that we see what the current positions are. Salt, this phase, reached out to me and said, hey, I'm basically gathering up a coalition against the Ottomans. Do you want in? And I'm like, well, I mean, that sounds like an interesting idea. What would you want me to do? He's like, okay, well, if you bounce Sicily out, we are gonna go in on the Ottomans from this side, right? I've got Safavids on side, I've got Poland on side. We can we can push in on this side, and basically Ottomans will have a bad time in the first year. I'm curious, Ezio, would you have taken that offer?
Salt says, hey, I'm attacking Ottomans. I'll say yes.
Yeah.
Will I attack the Ottomans? God, I have no idea. In this position, probably, because France is at war with the North. Like, yeah, I think here, assuming I can get France to agree, no fleet in Marseille, and pull back out of Corsica, I would probably go take Tunis here, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And that's war with Ottomans, so we're clear. Me taking Tunis and Sicily.
Yeah.
That's the extent of what I go for.
So... I'd already agreed to give Sicily to Ottomans, right? But I had some interesting negotiations around that. I had said to Ottomans, hey, you know, I'm happy to give you Sicily. I'm happy for you to take Naples after that, to be honest. Like, I don't want anything to do with this. Obviously, I had also offered it to Austria, but they didn't know that. Are you okay to not build fleets in this kind of region? Because I would like control of this area of the Mediterranean, and that's like... Really, that's really my focus for the early game, right? If I can get a solidified Mediterranean, then I can use these fleets to make sure that Portugal is never threatening towards me. I also just don't need to worry about France very much. It's perfect for me, and if you don't have fleets nearby, then I'm also very happy with that. And Ottomans said no. They were like, okay, yeah, I'd really like Sicily, but if you have this many fleets in this area, I need this many fleets in this area as well.
Well, they shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. I feel like that's the kind of thing you say to yes to, even if you aren't particularly happy with it.
And then when their justification is, no, I'm not going to do that. I need to mobilize this front dramatically more and add a ton more fleets to this area that you are the superpower in.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Yeah.
War it is. Let's go. So what do you tell them? How do you snipe Tunis?
I can't remember if I was actually trying to snipe Tunis here. I think I wanted to, but the main thing was just bouncing them out of Sicily. I may need to look at the moves to see if I do try and snipe Tunis.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I would let them into Sicily and just take Sardinia, Balearis, and Tunis and say, look, we got it. This was the deal. Mm-hmm. I'm sticking to my end of the deal. You didn't want the deal, but I don't want to escalate this. But let me tell you, this can escalate.
Yeah. But basically, if Ottomans are going to put down fleets in this area, I don't really want to work with Ottomans that much.
God, are we putting down 4 fleets in the Med this year?
Yeah. It would certainly be interesting. You mentioned trying to get France not to build in Marseille. I did reach out to France about exactly that, and they said sure. They weren't going to build in Marseille, so
not sure,
fleets
easy
in Marseille anyway. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think, like, the negotiation with France there was exactly how the negotiation with Ottoman should have gone, I think.
Yeah.
Because Spain is just so overpowered in the Med in the early game. You don't want to get on their bad side.
Yeah, they're just going to crush you.
Yep.
If they can make peace with one side, they alone will conquer the other side, because neither France nor the Ottomans have the firepower to contest. They're just too weak at the start.
Yes.
The Ottomans can hold better than France can, but if the Ottomans are devoting a lot of resources to holding in the Med, things are not going well for them. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel it's not the same way. I think Spain has the strength in the Med to throw around and to abuse their weight. So,
yeah.
the same thing happened in my game, right? Like, yeah.
Exactly. So, that's basically where it's at. Salt approached me, and I was like, okay, well, I guess indirectly I'm actually going to be working with Salt this game, because they're going in on Ottomans, I'm probably going in on Ottomans. I think we're in okay spot then. So, if we move ahead...
to know that Salt's only going against the Ottomans for half a year, and then call it a day.
Salt moves against the Safavids.
Yeah, great. Doesn't even make it a full turn. Understood.
He doesn't even commit on the turn. And Poland doesn't move against the Ottomans either, which I got a promise from...
Oh, Poland said they were? Okay,
I don't actually remember if Poland had directly said, because Salt approached me about this quite late in the phase and said they had Poland on board.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And... like, here, they get attacked by the Safavids. They clearly thought they had Ottomans on side, right?
Yep, clearly. You know, I didn't notice that move. Is the fleet in Cairo to start, right? For the Ottomans?
I think so. Let me just
check. So that fleet moving into the Levantine Sea instead of the Red Sea is actually very significant.
No, it's from...
it's in Smyrna.
Okay.
Oh, okay, never mind. I don't care.
Yeah.
Sorry, nothing to look at.
I actually don't go to Tunis at all because I thought Gadames would be covering it, if I remember correctly. And I kind of just wanted him to walk out of that center. So this is what I'm saying when I said I don't think I even tried to talk him out of, like, to try and snipe Tunis, because I was fairly confident it wouldn't work, and then it would have worked totally fine.
Yeah, and now he's going to put down, like, 3 fleets.
Yep.
Tunis, Tripoli, Athens. So, yeah, we're building 4 fleets.
Yeah.
Barcelona, Valencia, Gibraltar, and Naples.
And
Let's go.
I was so confident because I was like, okay, well, Ottomans clearly aren't going to get all that much. They're going to be under so much pressure up here. They're probably just going to want to piece me out, and so they'll give me Sicily, and I'll be happy, right? But they didn't get attacked at all.
Yeah, but again, here's the position of Spain in the Med being so strong. Even if Ottomans built all these fleets, you're still going to take Tunis next year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They just can't hold it. So, I don't know. Good luck.
Indeed. I do get the convoy off from Gibraltar to Tangier here, and it can go into
Yeah.
Marrakesh on the next turn, right? I can back this out.
Yep. Or Riff, frankly, either way.
Yeah, actually, I think I agree with Portugal to swap Canaries for Rabat here. So I'm going to coastal crawl up this way, and they'll just go out and take this, right?
Perfect.
Which I think that's a really good trade. It means you don't get the builds on here, unfortunately, but like this area is more important to Spain anyway.
Yeah, and Canaries is remarkably inaccessible. Like, it's not a good place to get out into the world. It's like, yeah, it can mess with Azores and Arkin or whatever, but I don't know. I think Marrakesh is fine.
Yeah. Alright, so, where else are we looking? I guess we're looking over here at Aymara. I do go into Axura with support, and just take that with the army as well, so that's continued aggression against Aymara in the future.
Yeah.
Grab Putumayo. I don't know whether this is the best position, because, like, obviously now Aymara and Netherlands are positioned to push up this way if they really want to, and Aymara is going to get the builds on the northern side here, right? So,
yeah,
maybe I should have negotiated more with them, but I was fairly convinced.
So. I think this was optimal, but them moving Nazca Ridge to Peru Basin, if you take with your fleet, they're just in an annoying position against you. It's like you have to put down a fleet in Quito, I guess, and like you might retreat into Lima. You might have to build a fleet in Bogota to stop the retreat into Colon Ridge. Mm-hmm. No, I think taking with the army was best here, just not letting them into Peru Basin. So I like it. I think this is optimal.
Yeah. But it's kind of hard to see how you push hard off the back of this, right?
Oh, I mean, you work with Netherlands to take Madeira, right? That's step one.
That one's obvious, I think.
And then like maybe Netherlands gets into Chiquitano. Like that's how I would push. I would say, yo, let's go for Amazon. Let's get you into Amazon. Let's get Madeira in the fall. Like I'll get into Quechua. I'll take Madeira. Meanwhile, you can slip into Chiquitano type stuff and then split that way. It's not a fast attack. But Aymara has, what, 2 builds? Oh no, they have 6 units. What are they going to do?
Yeah, and we do have the Mapuche coming up from the south, although, like, it's slow progress. I was hoping they would go in this way, but they decided to go in from Santiago instead, which, that has me on alert that, hang on, are they actually going to continue here? Because this seems much more positioned to go this way now, right?
Yep.
And talking to Mapuche after these moves, I got even more of the impression that they're not planning to actually continue with this attack, because they start talking about how they would want Buenos Aires first. And I'm like, oh, damn it.
Yep.
I guess my southern support is not there after all. Which was very annoying, but there's not much I can do about it from here, right? I'm already committed, and I can't really do anything to leverage Mapuche right now, so yeah, not great. But elsewhere, everything goes fine, right? I take Galapagos, I take Havana, and here I actually guessed correctly, although their moves aren't amazing anyway. They were trying to bait me back into Nueva Vizcaya, I think, with this unit, so they just move elsewhere. I think, honestly, you probably just want to keep... Do you want to keep this in Sonara? No, maybe Kiowa is better, because you can build here and come in with another unit. But...
They're both fine, but...
Yeah, this is a support hold, by the way. I just issued a support hold on Arapaho, because why not?
Sweet.
And they held this. This really should have tapped Apache, I think. but it wouldn't have made a difference. Like, because I decided to go with this on the 50-50, I get the 50-50 right. Suddenly my position is looking okay, even although they do have a fleet in Aquaala, which is going to presumably come to the Sea of Cortez and be very annoying, so I need to be careful about that. Notably, Athabasca's position looking amazing right now, right?
I mean, nobody seems to be attacking them. Yeah, yeah, seems solid.
Yep. So
Yeah,
Inuit go out this way, right? They take Nazcapi, they take Godlab Salik. They do get Denaina, which is maybe moving a little inland. But Athabasca take Tichone, they take Chilcotin, they even bypass Oji Cree and just walk unopposed into Ojibwe because the French are moving full force this way. Yeah? And they get into Cree completely unopposed as well. So they're expanding like past their natural neutrals. They're going super fast with no opposition.
yeah, because France is doing this very hard commit against England.
Yes.
So you have a great opportunity as Athabasca to take a bunch of centers that won't necessarily be yours. And so the only question is going to be who gets IOA, who gets like, which is probably Shoshone. But if Shoshone's attacking you, then like if you can slip into Iowa, if you get into Illinois, who man.
Yeah. If anything, like, I would really hope that Shoshone don't offer Athabasca IOA, because that would be a reason for Athabasca to keep Shoshone on board. I think if Shoshone is being that subservient, right? Um,
Oh, as
I,
Spain, yeah, you don't want to see that. But
yeah.
I
As
mean, as
Athabasca, you would
Athabasca,
love to.
yeah, slash as Shoshone. I mean, as Shoshone, I don't know if I committed to attacking Spain at the start, but since you kind of have committed here, I need Athabasca on side because that's how I die. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a tough position. I would never play Shoshone in this. This seems very hard.
Yeah.
Um,
But at this point, I'm just kind of going, okay, this is great. I love seeing Athabasca getting very strong, because the stronger they get, like, very quickly, the more quickly they'll go into Shoshone, I think. And that's
yeah,
kind of what I need them to do. So, um, I am obviously not going to just let Shoshone get into Sea of Cortez. I think I end up building Mexico City West Coast just to bounce this move. And then I'll get the units up here. So, really nice thing about being a colonial, I can just pump this area full of units. And, I mean, even if I wasn't a colonial, I would have been able to from the start, because I took all the centers I needed to. But, like, even if I'd guessed wrong on stuff and lost Nueva Vizcaya, I'd still be able to put down builds here and here, right? Just fund them from elsewhere. So, you will note also, I hold in Cartagena. I do not take
yep,
Caracas. That was at the request of not Portugal, Poland,
sweet.
because they want to take Caracas. Now, will I let them take Caracas? I think at this point the answer is probably yes. Because I kind of just want to keep being friendly with everyone in the Caribbean until I have enough fleets to, like, properly take it out. And I think because of the situation in North America, I'm having to build on this coast of Mexico City. I'm probably going to
Yeah,
have to put an army in St. Augustine. It doesn't feel like the right time to get involved in a war in the Caribbean.
yeah. I don't think you have the luxury to build like I would want to build a fleet in Saint Augustine or Saltillo to like have that sit in Gulf of Mexico. But I think you're right. I think we need armies in all of those locations. And here's where St. Augustine is really important: the fact that you can put armies down there and get into Muskogean. And frankly, you might take Cherokee next year. Like you have to talk to England about it, but they're the only ones. Maybe France also, but England is the main one who can contest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think telling England, yo, I'm putting down an army in St. Augustine and going for Cherokee, they just won't put an army down in Norfolk. Or they do, but they send that up to Erie instead, where it can help them in their war. Like, that's sweet.
Yeah, and bear in mind that England isn't really in a position where they have a lot of leverage over what I'm doing anyway, right?
Yeah,
If
but
I
as
say,
desperate as we feel against, like, Shoshone with their attacking us, England feels that, but with France. And that's a way bigger deal because France forced them out of Mohawk. We can check the British mainland, but I think there was a convoy over there. Yeah, Bahamas got lost. Sargasso Sea is brutal.
Yep.
There's this convoy into
Actually, they lose
Plymouth.
2 here.
Oh, and London. Yeah, so England cannot afford to say no to us. We can ask for anything that's remotely reasonable, and they'll say yes.
Yeah,
Like,
and it should be
yeah,
noted, like, you have to say this in a certain tone of voice. The way we make it sound in commentary is that you can go in and demand stuff off them, right? In reality, you don't want to do that. In reality, you want to, like, gently say, hey, can I do this? And if they say, I'm not comfortable with that, you try and talk them around, right? You don't
if I
explicitly
found
say,
actually, yeah. So in my experience, the subtleties of negotiations here, I don't ask permission for that. In situations like this, I do more demand. Like in this position, I would say, "Hey, I wanted to give you the heads up. I'm going to be building an army in St. Augustine with the plan to go to Cherokee," and just telling them that.
mm,
But putting it in that regard to say, here is a move that I am doing as a heads up, so you know if you build an army in Norfolk, you can send it elsewhere. But I'm not demanding, right? I'm not like, you have to let me do this because your position so weak. I'm not flaunting it, but I'm just saying, here's my intention. And to make them come to me and say, hey, you can't do that, it puts the onus on them. And because they don't feel strong, they can't do it. If I ask and say, hey, can I do this? Then they say, hey, I'm not really comfortable with that. And then you have to kind of say, well, I'm going to do it anyways. I
yeah.
find. And so, like, that's a different personality trait. And if it works well for you, do it. But I find in situations like this, just be pushy about it and then put the onus on them to say no. And when they're weak like this, they will not say no.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that speaks to our different negotiation styles in a way,
yeah.
because I can absolutely see your approach working, but I feel like it can leave a bit of a bad taste in their mouth, right?
Yeah.
About it if you are just being that pushy. And
Yeah.
I generally want them to feel as good about me as possible. uh,
Yeah.
so my approach, if I recall correctly, was basically saying, "Hey, I really think I need Army Saint Augustine in order to counter this Shoshone push," and I would then ask for more on the future turns. Right. So basically, I'm pretty sure that like England can't afford to go this way right now. They need to be building in. Well, actually, maybe it's optimal for England to just say, "This is screwed. I'm gonna focus here now." Right.
Yep. I mean,
Um,
the Ezio strategy.
but I certainly get the feeling it's also on a player by player basis, right?
Yeah.
You'll get a read on someone. You'll see what kind of negotiation will they best respond to. I think in this case, like England was very happy with me right from the start, so I
Yeah.
could
That's
just
very true.
ask them for this kind of stuff and they'd be fine with it. Um,
Yeah, a lot of players they want to be agreeable, and in situations like this where they feel like they're desperate, they will say yes. Whereas other players, when they start feeling desperate, they get more demanding.
yes,
And recognizing which style of player you're with changes how you would approach this negotiation dramatically. And yeah,
yeah.
we'll see how it goes. Do they
Importantly,
build a
like
Norfolk?
I think the negotiations with Ottomans are maybe the good example of the flip side here. So if I had Ottomans in a similar position to this English player, given the initial negotiations where I had complete dominance over the Med, right, very obvious dominance, and they still refused the request that I made there, that would be a situation where I'd be a bit
Okay,
more
the very
forceful.
reasonable request of let me take Tunis this year and I might give you Naples next year. The
Okay.
very
No, 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 no,
reasonable
no, 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 no.
request.
It was the request of don't build fleets in this area, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah. The
um,
other very reasonable request.
yeah. Admittedly, it does make them weak to me, but they can't really not be weak to me, so
Yeah.
it's the kind of
So
thing they should
why and
accept.
yeah, would you rather be weak with me and me be pissed at you, or weak with me but have me not pissed at you? Is I completely
Yes.
agree.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, if this Ottoman
Sweet.
player were in the England spot, I would probably be taking a different approach to negotiation. But
Yep. But if it works, right? You got to say whatever it takes to get the deal done. So
yep.
that
Um,
means lying through your teeth. It means lying through your teeth.
Okay, other thing that happened, I get into Kosubatu, fine. I get into Zamboanga, fine. This is
Yeah.
all looking great. I am...
So you're like plus whatever 15 or something. You don't take with Straits of Gibraltar. What else doesn't take a center?
Uh,
Oh, something's deported.
Tyrrhenian Sea
Sicily
doesn't get it,
bounces.
right?
Yeah, and then you're in Peru, right? You have that fleet supporting the attack. So you're only plus
Yes.
13
I think that's
only.
right.
Yeah.
If we
Sweet.
go on to the clean map, this side bit won't update, but I do
Yeah,
just
plus
paste
13.
this on top of it for the for the earlier
Sweet.
years. So I am at the top of the leaderboard,
Sweet.
but admittedly only just, and France and Netherlands are directly below me. Like, look at this.
Yeah. Yeah. What a good year for France, or for France, but also for Netherlands.
Yes.
Like that's got to be the dream start for Netherlands, just to know that France and England are locked into war. One of the main threats to your homeland, your super vulnerable capital, has been drastically weakened. You've probably agreed to build two fleets with France,
Hmm.
so you're probably just safe and like, man, you got a good shot to take the entire British Main.
Yeah. It's so good. I love this start as the Netherlands. Looking at it
Yeah,
as a foreign power, I was like, I don't want this alliance getting that much stronger.
yeah,
This has me very nervous, especially as the third wheel in this alliance. So,
yeah. But it's so good for you because their part of the alliance is so much more visible and so much stronger. Everyone is going to be begging you to be the one to attack them, and so they don't want to attack you as a result.
yes. I think
That's
that
sweet.
definitely benefits me here.
Yeah,
But
awesome.
I'm also just not going to immediately commit to any kind of attack against France here, but I am going to keep an eye on them and, like, be ready to try and weaken this alliance if I get the opportunity to. Like, look at this Netherlands thing as well. Not only do they get Plymouth and London, they haven't taken Ghent, so they get another free build on the next turn that no one is going to contest. Right? It's
Saying that
just...
France won't contest is pretty strong.
I don't think France is going to contest Ghent. Like, this is naturally Dutch.
Can we just double check North America for a sec? I want to see how
Yes.
committed France is to this attack.
So they have Army Estrie, Army Mohawk, right? They've gone up into the north as well, so
Yeah.
they're not 100% committed, but they also went into Massachusetts
Massachusetts
Bay.
Bay and Sargasso Sea.
Yep.
Okay, I think France and England have to stay at war. My concern was that this could have been an opening that France chose just for the first year, but then if it left Netherlands in a more exposed position against England, then France might do a judo flip and then work with England against Netherlands and
I
then
see.
conquer a bunch of these. But I don't think that position works out here, so I don't think it's real. Don't worry about it. Ignore me.
Yeah. I should also
I think F
say,
is going to be Dutch.
again, you can't read this from the board necessarily, but from the negotiations, it was very clear that England was not going to judo flip back to France. Like, they were very bitter about this opening start.
Well, I mean, as England, it's
Understandably.
like the most brutal, right? You just lost because of France. You lost, I think, three starting cores. Then they're moving to the Guiana Current to then mess with you in Bermuda or Barbuda. Sorry, Barbuda. So you had to cover that risk
Yes.
so you don't get Puerto Rico. Like you don't get to build in the you get one build in the Caribbean, maybe Belize, but you don't have the units to spare, man.
Yeah.
Anyways, I would be bitter as England because knowing the post game, um, France went into this game knowing this is what they were going to do.
Hmm.
They just said, "I see this brutal attack, and I'm going to exploit it." And it didn't matter what England said or what Netherlands said; they went into this game doing this.
Yeah.
And like being on the receiving end of that, sometimes it feels really brutal to just like, oh, I couldn't have played differently. Like I was just
I'd be doubly
should have
bitter
bounced
in
the
that
English channel.
France didn't take any of the centres here themselves, right? This is just helping Netherlands. But yeah, I think we didn't even like look at this last turn, but yeah, this French fleet from Cayenne went up to Guyana Current. England had gone into Puerto Rico to take it. But because Guyana Current is there, they have to go back to cover that, and France just goes past it and goes in Sargasso Sea, and suddenly your center is covered, and you haven't taken Puerto Rico. It's just brutal. This whole attack was horrifically bad for England. Yeah. And meanwhile, I'm just casually plus 13. No one's annoyed at me, so I'm pretty happy. Apart from Aymara, of course, but, like, they're a regional, so who cares? Oh, and Ottomans. Ottomans are not happy with me at all. That's kind of important.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Based on this, like I said, we're expecting 4 fleet builds, right?
Yes.
Sweet.
And, like, this area I'm just really mad about. I'm so annoyed that Salt didn't go in when he said he would go in. Because, like, I spent this entire early game thinking, oh, it's so great that Salt isn't next to me. I won't be screwed over by anything Salt related. And then in the first year, I get screwed over by something Salt related. I was so mad. Anyway, I'll go ahead to builds here, because I think we don't really need to talk about that much more here. I'm trying to remember...
Yeah, I think we should the builds. Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, okay, so I don't actually put down a ton of fleets over here. I put down 1, 2...
Wow!
And then an army.
Yeah, that's an army in Valencia. Okay.
So, a super important point here is that I still don't really trust Bumble that much, right?
Sure.
I've been talking to Bumble a lot, and I've been talking to other powers a lot, and other powers have been saying to me that Bumble has been saying that he's not a fan of, like, allying Spain for a long time, and that's kind of the impression I'm getting talking to Bumble as well. So my instinct here is to make sure that I always have an army somewhere around this region. And my feeling here is, well, I can use this to convoy across here, right? But if he builds something in Porto and Lisbon, then I've got something defensive as well. So Valencia isn't that aggressive, but it's also pretty happily defensible, right? I'm curious what you think about that build.
Army Valencia?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't build enough armies in my game in the homeland. And I agree that if you're building an army and you don't want to threaten Portugal, Valencia is the right place to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's, yeah, I mean, I think that's totally fun. And then I like the Army Canaries because you're just saying, hey, I'm going to convoy this back. It's like very hostile to the Ottomans.
Yes.
But yeah, so I think this is fine.
Yeah, this army I think I discussed with Portugal because we're swapping Rabat for Canaries, right? I'm going to convoy this army back to Marrakesh and then take Rabat. So I said I was coastal crawling in the last phase. I think I'm actually not. I guess I'm doing...
Yeah, that plan changed in the meantime. I'm sad about the Army of Valencia as opposed to Army Barcelona. I think, given my position, I would have built Army Barcelona, Fleet Valencia, because I want to get into Alborian Sea and use Strait of Gibraltar to get into Rif.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe if we're putting in the army in Rif, it doesn't matter anyways. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's fine. They're both so similar. Like, the point is, we built only 2 fleets, not 3, and so that's fine.
Mm-hmm. I think I actually did discuss this because Portugal was very in favor of me building Army Barcelona as well. I think I actually talked to Portugal and say this army is necessary in case I need to go against France, right? In which case it kind of should be in Barcelona. But I was also quite worried about the fact that France is quite strong here. I don't really want to tip them off that I'm going this way. And, like, France will obviously not be happy with Army Barcelona. So I end up doing it this way around. And yeah, I think it leaves me in a painful spot. As you've said, Naples, Tyrrhenian Sea, this can cover Shirky Banks or Algerian, right? This can cover Algerian or Albaran. If I want to convoy this across, then I'm going to be leaving one of these 3 open, and that's a bit painful. So, yeah, we'll see what comes of that. So, yeah, elsewhere, Mexico City West Coast, the Bounce Sea of Cortez, lots of armies in this area, as you would assume. Another fleet in Quito. I'm not sure whether that should maybe have been an army. Like, I don't... I do have a decent army presence here, right? But it's not an overwhelming
Yeah.
army presence.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if you're strictly thinking about war with Amara, then I'd rather have the army.
Hmm.
Because I just want to right Lima to Quechua, Quito, Army Quito to Lima. We have Fleet Galapagos that gets to Peru Basin. But as this, we can move Galapagos into South Pacific and then Peru Basin into Rockavy Basin. Like forcing the Nazca Ridge is pretty important. So I don't know. I think they're both very good.
Yeah.
Units are units, man.
Mapuche gets lots of builds down here. um, as you
Yeah,
would expect. England does put a new fleet on in Belize because that's like their only angle for this. And it's at this point I'm kind of like, oh, can we do the swap for Havana for Belize instead, right? Because obviously England can't really take Saint Augustine reasonably anymore. I don't know why they built a fleet here. That seems a bit bad.
looking to fight back for the Caribbean, right?
Yeah, but it can't get to the Caribbean very easily. I guess.
Support an attack into Gulfstream.
Yeah, okay. I guess with this many French fleets around, you do kind of need it. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean
sorry.
the position just sucks.
I lost my train of thought halfway through there. I was going, hey, can we do this trade of Havana for Belize instead now? And England was like, nope. That's my only core here.
Yeah,
I
that
can
is
build in.
fair. Right, they need more units.
So I was just sulking at this point because I really wanted to take Belize, but it's not like I can really do very much. So, yeah, that's. I end up just saying sure to that. And over here, I put down 2 new fleets because I really want to reinforce this area and make sure no one can take it. I don't have ambitions to attack anyone instantly, but I think there might be room to do so in the future, right? And you don't want to leave a tiny region like this weak because other people will sweep in and take it. That's my thinking on that anyway.
Yeah, keep building fleets. I like putting down fleets in this area. You got 2 builds, put 2 fleets down.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. 4 centers, 4 units.
Yep. So, at this point, I'm trying to think if there's any... is that still the build phase? There. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's any, like, crucial negotiations to talk about here. I can't remember if it's this phase or next phase. The Aymara player has to sub out for a different Aymara player. Because the GM of the game had to stop GMing, which meant they had to find a new GM, and the only person who could GM was the Aymara player, so they subbed out to GM, and then another player took their place. And that player was a guy called Waka Kafka Flame. I'm trying to remember if that's how it's pronounced. It's something along those lines. Have you ever heard of him, Ezio?
I had not.
Okay. Well, in the variant community, he's kind of infamous. He has been around a very long time. We used to play, like, certain variants over on No Pun Intended's. Well, so No Pun Intended is a pretty prolific variant creator. He made one of my favorite variants of all time, which was called Dissolution. It was like a variant set in the Cold War, which had aircraft units and such like. It was very interesting. And I played against Waka in that variant, and he is probably the single best diplomacy player I've ever played with. So I was terrified when they made this substitution.
Sure.
I was just like, oh my god, you could have picked anyone. Really? You put the strongest diplomacy player I've ever played against in the power that I am committed to attacking.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
Look.
luckily for
At
me...
least their position sucks, so you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. So luckily for me, he also has a little bit of an ego. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to get on your nerves, Whacker, but like, the way he treated this game was interesting. He came in on this phase. I can't remember if it's this phase or next phase, but I'll just say it's this phase because it was one of them. He comes in, he talks to all of the neighbors around him, right, trying to gather a coalition or just anyone who will attack me. Goes to Netherlands. Netherlands says, no, it's too important working with Spain elsewhere, right, that's not going to happen. Goes to Portugal, can you attack Spain? Nope, I think Spain's too important to me, right. He goes to various other people and basically gets a whole host of no's. I think Spain is too important to me. Goes to England. Nope. Spain's important to me. Goes to France. Nope. Spain's important to me. I'm just so happy at the result of this because Whacker then goes, this position is unplayable, and quits the game. Before the phase is even done. So they have to find another replacement. And I am just feeling incredibly smug at that point.
I mean, that's very reassuring. Given the, like, okay, he's clearly tried to coalition me, clearly failed. Alright, the next person who subs in is going to have the same problem.
Yep.
So, sweet.
Yeah. And the next person who subbed in I hadn't heard of before. He was a very pleasant person to talk to, but he didn't give me the same vibes that Whacker did of, like, this is a person to be terrified of, right? So,
sure.
I was just, at that point, breathing a sigh of relief, because him coming in and testing those alliances was was certainly a moment in this game. And, like, it doesn't even interact with the moves at all, because he left before the phase was over. It was just a thing that happened between the turns of this game. But it was so important, and it was just, like, I don't know, I was just really happy after that moment. Anyway, so other really important thing that happened here, Poland missed their build in New Courland. They did want to build there, and I think they had the units to build there. They just forgot to enter it.
Hell yes.
And they come to me afterwards and said, hey, is it still okay if I take Caracas?
And you say,
I'm like,
yeah.
Well, I think now that I'm adjacent to Caracas, it makes more sense for me to go in, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that's just a stroke of luck on the New Courland build not going through. I was very happy to see that, of course.
Hell yeah.
I don't know that there's that much more to talk about. Oh, so France is obviously still wanting me to be in this triple right now, right? And I'm talking to them as if I am in this triple. England is also wanting me to work with them, and they ask me to bounce Bahamas Channel and bounce Caribbean Sea against France. I think this is this turn. I hope this is this turn. In fact, let me just check that these are the actual moves that go through, because... Yeah, okay. So they want me to do this. I basically go and say, hey, I'm busy taking Caracas in the south. Go and get Poland to do it for you. I was like, okay, that kind of makes me less accountable to France. But I couldn't figure out a way to talk my way out of bouncing Bahamas Channel for them, right? Because ideally I want to keep both of these players on side. England is obviously less powerful, but they still have a lot of force, especially in fleets in this area. So I want to keep them happy. And France just has a lot of force in general, especially in Europe, where I don't want to annoy them yet. So I was trying to find a way to keep both of them on side, but I couldn't figure out how to talk my way out of doing this one right here.
Yeah, but you gotta find the minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And the minimum excusable. Bahamas Channel is perfect because it borders both, so you can still kind of use it against England, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, see, France was not very happy with this, for obvious reasons, right? You can still use it against England, but you're not in Havana anymore, so you kind of need to back off and go back in there to stop them just walking straight in.
Yeah.
My excuse as to this, if I recall correctly, well, first off, I was trying really hard to get England to agree to the Belize swap, because then I don't have to do this, right? Because this is the unit that takes Belize. But they didn't want to do that. So, at the end of the day, I do go into Bahamas Channel, and then I'm, like, talking to France, trying to excuse my actions, basically saying, I don't want England to take Havana, and this was the condition for them not taking Havana, so I was going to do that. I wasn't actually expecting it to go. I thought you were going to bounce it. And he... I mean, as all good diplomacy players are, he was very reasonable in press, and then, like, not very... clearly not very happy with me, but, like, still being friendly. But, like... It's so blatantly obvious that I'm playing both sides here, right?
Both sides need you, so neither side can call you out on it.
Yep.
Man, what a nice feeling.
That is the way. This is looking a lot less happy. With
Oh, no.
Shoshone getting into Sonora because they support this unit. I was kind of hoping they would bounce Sea of Cortez. And then I get to bounce Sonora as well, but... I don't know. They could have done a little better here if they had bounced Sea of Cortez and supported in this way, right? Because this bounces back.
Yeah.
But it's still a painful position. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units on this line.
Yeah, and here's where like the tactical position against Shoshone is so annoying. Because Apache doesn't border Sonora, there was just no... And Nueva Vizcaya has this connection to the center, or that territory to the northeast.
Yeah, Kiowa.
Right, if Sonora bordered Apache, then you can, like, support Apache into Sonora, and then cover Apache, and you have, like, tactical shots to keep yourself safe. As is, they're just gonna get a position against you, and I don't know how you defend.
Yeah.
Good luck.
It's painful, especially them having 2 fleets on this side. Because I only have 1, so I can't keep Sea of Cortez. They can push in this way. They can support into Sea of Cortez. They can go into Belanga Ridge. I had asked Tokugawa, hey, is there any way you could assist me? They said no. Which I think is kind of reasonable on their part, given they have 1 fleet there, and, like, Shoshone has... quite a lot in this region. They don't want to annoy Shoshone, so they're just sitting over here coring stuff. But yeah, this is not looking great for me. But that's the only front that's not looking great. Right. So here, I do end up losing Axura. I end up trying to basically corner this Madeira unit. And bounce them out of Exura, but they do focus quite a lot on it and go into Guaki as well. So I'm not going to be able to push back into the homeland anytime soon. I'm curious whether you think this is a decent tactical choice or not. I feel like I didn't have much of a shot to keep Exura anyway, right?
Stuff. I think this is solid. You get yourself a position against Madeira. And if Aymara commits so fully to the north like this, they're going to be exposed to the south.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fine. Plus, you're going to get into Rocky Basin next phase, so yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I do get out into SPO, which is kind of important. Annoyingly, like you see here, Portugal is trying to offer their support into Guarani to try and get Mapuche to, like, go this way. And Mapuche is just going...
Meanwhile...
Nope.
They're taking Portuguese centers.
Yep.
Yep.
And in fact, Portugal loses this specifically because they try and support this unit up into Guarani, because they could have held it.
Oh my god, and now they're gonna lose whatever. They're gonna lose centers next turn too.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is painful for Portugal. And in fact, like, Portugal is not having an amazing time anywhere, really.
Yeah, that's just how it goes in these games, man. Once somebody does poorly in one region, they oftentimes start collapsing everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Except Spain, because Spain is broken.
Yeah, I mean, you will note that Portugal is, like, joining in on dogpiling in some areas as well. They try and convoy into Mandan down here to go against England. They also are attacking England in India. or attempting to. I don't remember if England like infringed on them somewhere first, but I think this was Portugal's doing, and they're about to get completely destroyed in this area as well. Like Ming is going in on Macau and Hainan, and Netherlands. I can't remember if this is coming in to attack Portugal or not. Oh, I completely missed a really important plot point. Netherlands and Portugal are generally not very friendly with each other. Portugal, like, even through the first year, was talking about stabbing Netherlands on the long term, and Netherlands heard about that because I think Portugal talked about it to France.
Sure.
So, those two don't have great relations. And actually, you can see that here as well. Portugal do actually sneak into Moristad as a result of this, but they're not going to stay there. Spoiler alert. Anyway, Portugal not having a fun time right now. England also not having a fun time right now, whereas this triple alliance of me, France, and Netherlands getting along completely great and dominating the board, right? Which is
what a wonderful triple to have. Isn't it great to be in a solid alliance of 3 people?
Definitely not something that I would want to tank as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't that wonderful?
I mean, look, they're near me. They're like 4% behind me. We can't allow that. They're too close.
Yeah, the balance of power is too balanced. We need to unbalance this quickly, rather than like saying, "Look, France is in the middle, and if Netherlands and I were like, how's Netherlands?" Anyways, it's great. I love it.
So,
I'm very excited.
Would you genuinely stick with that triple, knowing that the two of them had launched their attack together, like before including you in the triple? Because that feels like it's a really hard dynamic to work your way into as like the major partner to one of those two people, if they already had been working with each other really closely at the start of the game.
I mean, it's really tough to talk about without feeling vibes from each of the players and without knowing, like, what are the tactics like? How many centers can I take for them by stabbing, right? Because if you just, in an abstract position, I can say yes or no, and it doesn't really matter until we get to the concretes of, like, in this position, no, I wouldn't stab them.
Yeah.
Right?
It's different about stabbing them and planning to stab that triple, right? Like.
Oh, yeah, but, like, saying yes, because I plan to stab everyone always, right? That's, like, a thing.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Mainly not wanting that triple to be your main alliance going forward is the big thing that was like on my mind here. I really want other alliances to come first because this
would like to see France and Netherlands do poorly while being my ally.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
As opposed to other alliances where I want to see my allies be successful. Like, that is a fair distinction here, where I don't want France to have no opponents and just steamroll the map. I don't want to see Netherlands be completely unopposed. Fair.
Yeah. That's fair enough. But my general thinking was I kind of want to tank both these players, even if, like, obviously I'd prefer it if other people did the tanking for me, but I think I will probably need to get involved just because of how dominant they are being. And especially in this region, I would really like to be England's ally over France's, because if I kick France out of here, like, England, they're not a problem. They're already half dead, right? And they're very happy.
I completely agree. That here, I would rather see England be successful in the Caribbean in the short term, because they can't really build in the region, whereas France still can. And so if I work with England against France in the Caribbean, I will likely be able to then kill England afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is what I mean by, like, the actual concretes of the position matter a lot more than, yeah, these two people are super close. I just think, and here, we're not a big enough factor to really matter. where I think we can claim to France, look, I'm helping you everywhere, but England could take Havana from me. I can't risk that, so sorry.
That's
Heart
probably
emoji.
the smarter way to go about it, actually. I see, I'm always nervous about doing stuff like that because I feel like even if I have a decent excuse for fighting someone in one region and like allying them everywhere else, they just naturally won't want to do that. If I attack
Sure.
them somewhere, they will
But have you
probably.
considered the heart emoji?
I'm sure that works every time for you, right?
I mean, never failed. On sites where I can send heart emojis, it's wonderful. It really does work wonders. I am fully serious. Backstabber, implement the heart emoji ASAP.
I think you can send emojis on Backstabber. You just have to like
Oh,
copy paste them in.
God. Well, I did. I haven't done that. Anyways, that explains why I've done terribly in Backstabber.
Important to note here as well. Like France is doing really well on their guesswork, just in general.
Oh,
They
yeah.
get into
France is
Puerto
playing
Rico.
super well technically.
Um, they like Poland does bounce France out of Caribbean Sea, which was what England asked them to do, right? England was asking me to do that, but I was fairly sure France would not be happy with me if I did that. So, and I wanted
Oh
to
yeah,
take
because you can't
Caracas.
pass that off, right? Because like, look, I have nothing profitable to do with Cartagena except take Caracas. Supporting someone in the Caribbean, no, that doesn't help.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. So
mhm.
I really only do this that annoys France on this turn, but France is willing to like overlook that. And France is
Heck,
still advancing here. They are taking Portland. They in fact blow up that unit, I think, and they're
yeah,
positioned to take Boston on the next turn. Just a painful
yep,
position for England.
yeah. This movement is Sargasso Sea to start was just so crippling. The correct guess with Bahamas, just yeah,
Yep.
yep, yep, yep.
And happily for me, no one adjacent to Cherokee. So I'm just
Yeah,
like, I'll jump in here, thank you very much. And even happier for me, you will note a lot of arrows going this way.
yeah, and Iowa going to them as well. So
Yep.
probably Lakota's gonna fall.
In fact, I think I don't know if I noticed this too much in the game, but France is clearly moving against Athabasca here as well, right?
Yeah,
Um,
everywhere. Yeah, because this attack against England went so successfully, they don't actually have to commit everything.
yep.
Wow.
They're actually even passing up Seneca to do this, right? But I
Yeah,
guess
I
they
mean
want to
that's
give that
often
to
going to
Netherlands.
Netherlands. Yeah,
Yeah.
sweet.
But thankfully for me, like
Queen.
Athabasca are pretty happy to just attack full force in here right now, and I am very happy to see it. I will work with them against Shoshone as much as possible, and like that eases up the pressure on this part. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
could
yeah,
be
yeah,
a
yeah. That's
lifesaver.
amazing. As for Spain, that's wonderful because you currently only have one serious enemy, and now that enemy is in a two-front war where they're stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're bad.
Well, okay, I have three enemies, right? I have one enemy here. I have one enemy here. This one I'm positioning on Madeira right now. I don't have pressure on their homes anymore, but like at least I'm going to be able to take that. And Ottomans, right? And the Ottomans,
I forgot about the Ottomans. Yeah, 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 that's right. We're at war with these guys too.
yeah, the Ottoman position is kind of interesting here. They try and bounce me out of Rif, thinking that I'm going to push this army forward, I think, or that I'm going to convoy this army in. And I think that's a fair assumption, but I kind of just think, like, I was thinking along the lines that you were earlier of, do I really want to not take Albaran, like, all three of these at once? Like, I think it's okay for me to leave the army at home for one turn, just to get a better fleet position. And that
Yeah,
ends up working out alright, because this fleet just gets moved out of position, kind of. Although it's a little scary that it can go into Straits of Gibraltar here. um,
yeah, boy, it's fine.
it is. I think I have a guarantee on Tunis. Do I have a guarantee? No, I don't have a guarantee on Tunis. Never mind. I do risk Marrakesh on this turn, just because tactically it doesn't really work for me to go to Marrakesh and take Rabat this year. I need to convoy Canaries over, and Canaries can only really go to Marrakesh. If I'm moving this to Rabat, then this might bounce out with Gadames, and then Portugal is unhappy because they don't get Canaries in response. So I think this ends up being just tactically correct here. And notably, there's a lot of coring going on in this area. I think you will see that Freiburg and Dijon bounce in Bern, right? And everything else on this line cores, which just to me says these two people are at peace. This is an arranged bounce. Everyone is just being very happy, and I'm annoyed at Austria coring Rome because I'm like offering them Naples. I was like, well, please come out this way, right? And nope, they are getting ready to build units here, and I really don't want them to be able to build units here because then they can come to this side, right?
Yep.
I don't like this call at all.
Yeah, we know. Yep. But you don't have time to mess with it, really.
Yeah.
Like,
If I had the opportunity to, I would probably tap it just to stop. I don't like this core either. I kind of hate it.
Yeah. You just take Corsica to stop that? Man, I want to take Corsica. I wouldn't, but I want to.
You wouldn't? Okay.
I would not. No.
That's an interesting thought right there.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at that on the next turn. So
unless I can, if I've talked to France about it and I can find a way to give France something, namely not mess with him with my fleet in the Caribbean, and say like, hey, you know what, with Bahamas Channel, how about this? We agree that you disband your fleet when I take Corsica and I don't take Bahamas from you or help with NTS Current or whatever. Like, that's the deal, because I care more about the Mediterranean than I do the Caribbean, and so I don't want you to have a hostile fleet in the Med, so how about this? And if France agreed to that, then it'd be chill.
Yeah,
but
I think that's fair, and that's probably the approach that I should have taken if I was being friendly with France. But
yeah, but you said, hey, I moved one fleet against France this turn, and so I need to attack them everywhere.
Well, also, France is second on the leaderboard. That cannot be allowed to stand.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, let's have a look at the fall moves here real quick, and I will talk about some of the negotiations that happened here. You will note Ottomans are moving this way. So...
Okay. And the Strait of Gibraltar, okay.
Yeah, the important thing here, I kind of said to... did I even agree to take... I can't remember if this take on Tunis was agreed or whether this was not. But, like, at this point, I was actually negotiating in quite a friendly way with the Ottomans again. One of the things about this Ottoman player was, even though, like, our early negotiations, we didn't hit it off all that well in terms of, like, what my demands of them were and how they responded to that, right? With the fleet builds and stuff. They were really friendly and were always very willing to talk over things, even when we were at war, which is huge, right? You love that kind of player.
Oh yeah, when they're at war with me. When they're at war with my enemies, I hate that kind of player.
Yes, yeah, for sure. I can't remember if they like thought that this was absolutely gonna be taken or something. They could have protected Tunis here, right? I can't cut any of these, so they could have just gone in with 3 to protect it. But they go into Strait of Gibraltar. I think there was some form of negotiation of, hey, if you move away, we can align ourselves after this, right? But I don't think there was like an outright agreement that we were allied after this point. Yeah, we were kind of still at war, but also kind of being friendly to each other. And that was enough to make me think, I think I can get away with this. Taking Corsica, making sure that the French don't complete their core there. And I also say to the Austrians, hey, take Naples on this turn. And that stops the core on Rome, right? So...
Yeah. Yeah.
And it positions them against the Ottomans, which I think is good, as far as I'm concerned. Now, whether it's a good idea for me to be one-dotting France here, it is actually a two-dot because I take Bahamas at the same time, but it's two-dotting the most powerful player in the game that isn't me is maybe a bit of a questionable decision.
Who's also your neighbor while moving an army into Barcelona to truly threaten him
Mm-hmm.
in a way that, yep, this is a CaptainMeme stab if I've ever seen one. Oh,
and
God.
also while ending up with an Ottoman fleet in the Straits of Gibraltar is...
Oh, that's great. That's just an excuse for you to put down more fleets.
Mm-hmm. That is
or maybe
true.
an army in Gibraltar, right? To say to Portugal, hey, I don't want to, friends.
Yeah. So you will note that France actually does try to judo flip England in the Caribbean on this turn. They try and support the English fleet into the Bahamas here. So I think they were trying to get the English to do something here. I can't remember exactly how it works out. But you'll see they also move into St. Domingo. They try and stay in Puerto Rico and take Barbuda at the same time. So it's like backstabbing the English, but also giving them something. Maybe trying to vassalize them. I don't remember. I do remember that England, I think, knew about this move and said, hey, you just take Bahamas and I'll focus down here. I'm like, yep,
Sweet.
Works for me. I'll happily do that. And at the same time, I'm aware that he's moving into Bay of Panama. Obviously, it's a little... I don't like enemy fleets in here, but I think in this case, this fleet is never going to attack me, like England.
It's on the way out, right? You'd rather it be in Bay of Panama, where it can get to Caribbean Sea, as opposed to the Gulf of Honduras, where it has to go through Bay of Panama to be useful.
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
Especially in the fall phase, because now we can build in Panama. We have a good excuse to put a fleet down in Panama, and then if he tries to stab us, if he does anything but move to Caribbean Sea with it, we know what's going on, and we can react appropriately. So I think we're quite happy with this.
Yes. This bounce, by the way, was agreed. I mean, it's kind of obvious that it is, but just in case there was any,
the new Coreland bounce?
Any doubt there, yeah. And
also...
do
you want to accept that? I feel like you should get to cover it, because you don't want to have to put a fleet down.
Oh yeah, that's a fair point, actually. I think maybe I should have just let him go back into New Coreland.
It's fine.
It would have been nicer if, obviously, he still owned Barbados on that turn. Poland was talking to me at this point and saying basically he just wants his colonies to be alive. Which I'm like, yeah, that sounds fine to me, but then in my head I'm going, I want to kill that colony at some point, because it'll be annoying to me, I'm sure, if I'm ever trying to dominate the Caribbean. But for now, it's not really my problem. I don't have enough fleets in here to take care of it anyway, so I don't really want to make this into an enemy fleet on the same turn that I'm attacking France. And yeah, you will note, I think I stabbed Netherlands at the same time here as well, which is maybe not a smart decision. Let me just check that. Yeah, okay, so you'll see I slip into Monado, I go basically full force pro Ayutthaya, because Ayutthaya is attacking Netherlands at this point. I go to try and get ready to attack Formosa as well. And then I slip into Carib at the same time as taking the Dutch support into Madeira. I don't know whether this is the ideal way of doing it, especially since Aymara moves up to my border anyway. But Carib is such a good province to be in.
Oh yeah, Carib's great. No arguments. I like
I can hear the disapproval in your voice of this.
Dude, this is how we lose. We just stabbed England, or sorry, we just stabbed France and Netherlands. We're already at war with Aymara. We're already at war with Shoshone. Thankfully, Shoshone pulled back, so that worked out. But like, oh my god, the only way our start was so clean. The only way we lose is we piss off everyone.
Okay, so
Oh my
here's the
God.
important part. Okay, Shoshone is moving
Yeah.
back because of the.
Yeah, imagine if they didn't.
Well, yeah, but they are going to, right? Because.
Yeah, of course they have to move back. Oh.
I think they also outright told me in press that they're moving back. I definitely got the impression that they were. I think Shoshone was generally quite an honest player and like very straightforward, which was exactly why I got such bad vibes off them to start, because they weren't gonna lie to someone. Well, they kind of did lie to me, but they weren't putting a lot of effort into lying to me, right?
Sure.
So I generally got good vibes on the turn after they got attacked.
Sure, you got good vibes, and you trusted your vibes, like and trusting your guts when with regards to relationships with your neighbors is important. And this let you get the jump on Netherlands and France, because no sane Spain in their right mind here would turn so fast when they're under such pressure. But because you did this move ahead of time, they didn't expect it, and you have a good position against France in the Caribbean because of your alliance with England, and you're in Carib, so your position against the Netherlands is solid tactically. I feel like if you knew this was happening, but you needed Netherlands support. I was going to say you would want to take from Quechua, but how do you explain to the Netherlands taking Madeira from Quechua instead of Putuma?
Yeah, maybe from Pano would make more sense, given that this gets blown up.
Yeah, that would have been a slightly better play, but whatever. It's fine. This is still, you're in Carib, which is the important center province, so you're doing great.
So my thought here is I can hopefully piece out Aymara after this point, because they have their home centers back, right? They have a nice clump of units here. Hopefully they can find somewhere else to go. Now,
yeah, with all of their armies that are in this nice little line against you.
Notably, though, like, Mapuche is still moving this way. I was fairly sure I wasn't ever going to make any progress moving south against Aymara for that reason. I need support from someone. From the Netherlands is okay, but they need to push in first, and that takes forever. And they're fighting Portugal at the same time. And I'm obviously not going to get the help from Portugal because they're fighting Mapuche and Netherlands.
Well, I mean, the good news is Mapuche's going to give you the help because they're going to clean up Portugal in about a year flat.
Yeah. So that was the other issue, right? Mapuche kept saying to me, hey, if Portugal suffers a fatal blow or whatever, then I'll be in a pretty good spot and I'll be able to come up and help you against Aymara. It's like, well, I don't really want you to be doing that well, so...
Yeah, because once you've dealt with Portugal and Aymara, good news for your fleet in Spain, and the south coast of the Pacific. Huh.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Hey, the only person who might help us against Aymara. Ooh.
So I'm very all in on making Aymara my friend at this point. Note that it is a new player. So
yes,
I haven't stabbed this person technically. I stabbed their predecessor. And hopefully I actually got really good vibes off this Aymara even before we were discussing any kind of peace treaty, because we started talking about a British sitcom called Yes Minister. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. I don't think it's very popular in the States, but
I do not know of this one.
It's fantastic. I highly recommend it to people. But this Aymara was Australian, and so like Australian TV and British TV kind of get a bit of overlap. We talked about that for ages and ages and ages, and it was just like not a game-related conversation at all, but it made me feel so good about this player. I was like, I vibe with this player. I think we can make something work. So there you go. That's my advice of the day. Talk to people about things that aren't diplomacy, and diplomacy, sometimes that's the key. And it made me feel good enough about it that I YOLO'd into Chiloe as well.
Hell yes.
I mean, a really important thing to note here as well is I still got the impression from Portugal that if they were ever strong enough, they would, and like it was, didn't have a good defense here, they would build here and attack me. But because they were doing so badly everywhere, and like they were very straightforward about that, they were like, "Look at what's happening to me," right? They were pretty happy saying to me, "Hey, I'm good to be your ally basically for the rest of this game, as long as you don't attack me in my capital. Hopefully I can recover from this, like, we can keep working together." I'm like, that's the kind of ally I want. Someone who's much weaker than me.
Yeah, perfect. Exactly.
This is the turn where I properly threw my lot in with Portugal and with England primarily, and against the big strong powers.
Yeah, other than you.
Yeah. It's a really interesting thing to do, right? Because I am still at the top of the leaderboard. So if I take down France and Netherlands a peg, then I'm going to be even further ahead of everyone. So it puts a bigger target on my back. But at the same time, it makes me the player everyone wants to be friends with because I'm the most powerful everywhere. So it's like a weird situation to be in, ultimately. It's not something you generally want to do in diplomacy, go out so far ahead. But I think it's okay in this variant purely because...
We're Spain and we're overpowered.
Yeah, you have so much everywhere, and also your win condition is so high that people think, okay, even though he's massively powerful, he still has to go a long way to get to where he needs to be to win the game, right? Which, obviously, you don't get as much in standard diplomacy. If someone starts running away with it, you're like, okay, we need to pull them back again.
There's also a huge, like, again, the difference between real diplomacy, the extended diplomacy, and this one. In this game, you can still win with somebody who is a runaway board leader. You just also have to get big enough to win yourself. In standard diplomacy, that is not an option. There will only be one winner. And so your strategy has to compensate for that difference.
Yes. Yeah. That's a massively important thing as well, I think. And it certainly comes into play a lot as the game goes on. But yeah, shall we move ahead to the next phase then? I don't know if there's any...
Let's see it.
Alright, so actually the retreats phase here is important. Because this unit in Corsica... Actually, I can't remember whether this was on retreats or... It was. So, the way this works is France... This isn't a valid retreat, by the way, I think. This was the Portuguese unit retreating, even. But France goes to me after I move to Barcelona and after I do this attack in here and basically goes, look, you're not going to gain anything more from me by attacking me, right? I can still put down units, I'm still a big power, I will just stalemate here and everything will go to a standstill, and you aren't really in position to attack me in the Caribbean. That's just England going to gain here. You'll gain a lot more by working with me and by attacking England here, everywhere along here, than you will by continuing your attack in here. And
yeah,
I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Take your fleet in Corsica off the board, and I think we can end it there. Like, we can say, all's good, right?
Yeah.
Between us again. And obviously, on a negotiation level, nothing is good. I've just stabbed France, and they know I'm untrustworthy, but, like, I don't really care as long as I get the Corsica unit off, and France isn't that incentivized to attack me anyway, right? Because this border is so hard to push through. So... They do actually take the Corsica unit off the board.
Hell yes. Good job getting that disband. Oh, so you're the only one in the entire med? Oh, you're so strong.
Yeah.
Hell yes.
One annoying unit here is Strait of Gibraltar. So I go to Ottomans. I think Ottomans have a disband on this turn. Yeah, so they have one disband, right? I go to Ottomans and say, hey, look, I know I've taken Tunis off you or whatever. I think we're at a really natural border, like a really good natural border as is. I'm very happy to leave you everything and not bother coming like any further against you. Let you defend against Austria on this front, especially because Austria moved in this way. If you take Straits of Gibraltar off the board. And it took some convincing, but they did eventually agree to do that as well. So I was just like, okay, well, that is the most beautiful turn in the meta I think I've ever seen.
I mean, that disband in Corsica, then getting Ottomans to disband State of Gibraltar, that's amazing. That's so good.
And if we go through to the builds here, you will note that I do not keep my word with France. They don't build anything on this front because we have pieced out, and I put down a bunch more armies to get ready to go in against them.
Yep.
So,
wow.
Yeah, it was certainly an interesting position.
I mean, interesting. It's just you're so strong.
Mm-hmm. See, this is why you should always stab the people who are doing the best in the game.
It's just lying is remarkably effective at winning games.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, yeah. Well, anyways, well done. Holy.
This was actually maybe the best turn of the game for me in terms of what I managed to accomplish, at least in the med. And like half of it wasn't even me. The Corsica thing, I didn't even consider asking France to take that off until they came to me and said, hey, we can peace out, right? Because I was just thinking, they're going to be so pissed off at me. I'm not going to make any like overtures to them at all right now. I'm going to wait until they've cooled off or just keep attacking them. But that was more like France approached me and I thought, oh, that's a good opportunity to get that done. And it worked.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, this turn, your position in the med is now so strong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one is a threat. Like, Austria can't do anything, and yeah, they're building fleets, but those fleets have to go through Ionian first. If you want to keep them bottled up, you can. France has no fleets. Ottomans has a fleet in Sicily. Like, I don't know, your meta's beautiful. And yeah, all it took was lying to a couple people. Okay? Mm-hmm. Easy.
Yeah. It does come with a caveat, in that Ottomans have 3 fleets down. Not Ottomans, sorry, Austria has 3 fleets down. They are pinned in on this side, which is perfect for me, right? I've got all the fleets here. But at this point, I do start hearing that Austria is trying to rally people against me, and especially immediately trying to peace out with Ottomans and get things to go this way. So I think they realize quite how... They see how strong I am in the med, right? And they're like...
Yeah, I mean, you've only got 2, 4, 6 fleets in the med, not including your fleet in the Tigrid Bay. And everyone else combined, I think, has 6? 6. Yep. But you tell me that Trieste and Sarajevo are equivalent to Alboran Sea and Strait of Bonifacio.
I think if this Strait of Gibraltar had stayed on, then it would be much more of a problem if these two allied, right? But as is, these fleets, like Sarajevo and Trieste, they're not going to get onto the line against me, and even if they do, they can't really threaten anything useful. Not for a long
and like, how exactly are they going to coordinate peace against you when Austria, like, is Ottomans just going to let Austria into Ionian? No. So what are they going to do? Your position's amazing here. This is sick.
Yeah, I love this position.
How do they look in the Americas?
Actually, I mean, my position is looking okay everywhere right now. I do get the build in St. Augustine here and another build on Mexico City West Coast. I can't remember if no, I'm not worried about them yet. Okay. And note, here, Aymara builds as far south as possible, which is a good sign with our negotiations, even though it's not that much different from Quellicoli, right? Especially when you've got that many
army in Panama?
That is an army in Panama.
Okay. Yeah, for Cartagena, moving into Orinoco.
Yes,
Okay, okay.
exactly. At this point, my biggest concern is that I don't have enough armies to face off against the Netherlands in this area, right? Because they did still get a
Yeah,
bill.
because you just
Um,
messed with them at Carib last turn.
yeah.
Full stab for a single non-center
Okay,
territory.
no, I did get a center. It was just over here.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay, and then you also, sure.
And it's alright, because I'm best buddies with Ayutthaya, who is attacking Netherlands full force as well. So we should
Yeah.
be good on this front.
Uh-huh.
um, yeah.
And Mapuche, who's also definitely attacking Netherlands with you, right? Yep.
Mapuche is definitely not.
Uh-huh, but they were best buddies with you, right?
um,
Yep. Yep.
Mapuche is very much not my friend anymore. Although I feel like friendship with Mapuche wasn't that valuable anyway, because they weren't doing what I wanted them to do. So
That's fair. But I just think if you can last it, they might have attacked Netherlands with you in the what's it called? In Indonesia because of
oh
their
yeah, I
Australian
see what you mean.
provinces. And so maybe not pissing them off was optimal instead of taking a single dot. But hey, I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. Like, the Mapuche player didn't give me the impression that, like, they're a really annoying style player called a balance of power player, I think.
Yeah, God, we hate them in our games.
The one thing a balance of power player really cannot stand is another balance of power player. At least when
When
you get
a
a
balance of power player is strong, yeah.
yeah. So I was kind of happy to just dot them here. I don't think they would have worked with me while I'm the strongest power on the board. Which now I become much more clearly the strongest power on the board with this happening. So yeah, I'm not certain whether this was the right build, but
Yeah, it's fine. I think you're going to war with Netherlands in South America, so having enough armies to actually fight that war seems great.
yes. Okay, so if we move forward here, we're in 43 right now. Alright, so 44. Just in terms of numbers, by the way, I'm at 41% VSCC. Second place is at 26. So I did indeed succeed in knocking people down. That may backfire on me, this being such a big number right now. But yeah, so, at this point, is there anything particularly important happening? I think Athabasca is still going to continue attacking into Shoshone. We're still having that negotiation. I am a little worried about what happens after Shoshone dies, right? Because I think Athabasca probably just runs me over, or tries to, but I have enough units here to protect against it. And they're currently fighting France, so it should be okay. Notably, they're still allied with Inuit even after breaking the regional alliance.
Yeah.
Yep. Over here, I'm going to work with...
regional alliances never last. They're always, yeah. We'll say we're in a regional alliance, and maybe we'll even take out a colonial together, but you rarely.
I feel like smaller ones do stick. Like, the bigger they get, the less likely they are to stick, right? Although
Yeah,
in...
alliances of two powers can sometimes work out. Like Congo and maybe Abyssinia, they can work together, right?
I feel like some regional like triples and stuff do work out from time to time. There's probably some that are going on somewhere that I haven't spotted, but I think these three powers are working together actually. I might be mistaken on that, given that Ayutthaya is incoming. Actually, maybe I'm thinking the wrong game. Okay. Anyway, the regional alliances can work out sometimes. But anything important. Poland put down a new unit in New Courland, which I'm not very happy about, but I can't do anything about, right? I'm still going to work with England on this front and just kill France, most likely.
Sweet.
Yeah, and at this point, I can't remember if it's this turn or on the next turn, France makes another pitch. Basically says, hey, I know you've got the jump on me here, right? You clearly do, but I'm gonna, like, make your life hell if you go for this. As much as you can. And at the same time, Austria is, like, pitching things against me, and France goes, well, what about if you try and just take Italy with these armies instead? Convoy them over this way, and we can keep working together.
What a good pitch.
I actually really liked that, purely because Austria was coming across as someone I really couldn't work with in the long term. And if I'm attacking France, then Austria is kind of a necessary person to get on side against them. So I can't remember if this is in the spring or fall, but I do take that deal. Yes. And this is why they changed how convoys look on the map. Yeah. So,
what? So Naples is like covering Rome, and you just YOLO convoy?
Yeah, I was hoping that Naples would be covering Rome, and I can YOLO convoy into Naples. It doesn't go through, but
okay.
I do then have the fleet in Ligurian Sea ready to support it on the next turn. And Ottomans were very, very happy to see me attacking Austria. In fact, we discussed this on the previous turn with them. So they are willing to help going forward there. So
yeah, plus the army of Naples has to make them happy, because they're not going to lose Andean as a result.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Exactly. So, and you know, like France, credit to them, they do make really bold, aggressive plays against Austria here. I don't think I would ever do this with Spain having these units right here.
Yeah.
But they go for it, and, I mean, it works out, because I'm not moving on them. I think their pitch works.
People call me fickle.
Yes, I'm being a bit two-faced here, I'll admit. But I'm being offered deals that are good, what can I say?
It's clearly working out for you. It's just... I demand justice. How does CaptainMeme have a reputation of being not a stabby, lying, greedy player, when this is what he does? Justice.
Okay, should be noted, who am I stabbing here? I am stabbing specifically strong players, for one, which people like me for that, because I'm fighting for the underdogs, right? And I'm also stabbing untrustworthy players, such as Austria, who was plotting against me, but I have not stabbed any weak players except for Aymara, which we won't talk about. I have mainly participated in just war.
What? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mapuche's a strong player, right?
Yes. I mean, they actually were. Like, look, they were overpowering Portugal.
Yeah.
I was fighting for Portugal's rights.
So the way to get Meme to not stab you is to be weak, but strong enough to defend yourself, and also giving him everything he wants.
I mean, yes. I would highly recommend giving me everything I want. That's generally a good idea.
Yeah, that is a good way to get us to not stab you, if you agree to just give us all of the things.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I just needed to make what was going on here very clear to some of our more impressionable viewers who seem to think that because you claim to be a balance of power player, you're not going to ruthlessly stab everyone to be nuts.
I feel like everyone who's played with me knows that I will stab people. Like, that
Guess what?
is
There are thousands of people who've watched our videos who haven't played a game with you, but a lot of them actually think that you won't.
Okay, fair enough. Look, it is important
Justice.
to You have to stab people in diplomacy. That's how it works. You can stab people in the way that you're the bad guy, which is C. Take. I would like ... I need to grow. Or you can stab people in the way I do, which is I'm doing this for the greater good of everyone on the board.
Huh. Can you pan to the right again real quick?
Which bit?
Fully to the right. Fully to the right.
Oh no, we don't want to look at this.
Oh, it's not. No, sorry. No, it's not up. It's. Sorry. I was gonna try to go to the screen where we see you at first place at 55% or whatever. Oh, we do see it. Yeah.
Yep.
For the good of the board.
Yep.
Okay. And now let's double check what happened in the in this
Let's not look at this area. This is,
Oh, that's. I actually didn't know that happened. That's gonna be tough.
That is very painful. I end up in Formosa here.
Man, that's brutal.
And they backdoor into Luzon. Ming is coming in to take Formosa, and Ayutthaya just go into everywhere.
God, that's bad.
Yeah, I was looking at the bits of the board that were going well, and I was very happy about before I came to this bit. But this was just crushingly bad. Man. Dude,
you've lost. The Philippines. The Philippines are done.
Yep.
That's it.
Ayutthaya is just going to run me over here. Ayutthaya and Netherlands, this alliance. I am very screwed. And so I was really taken by surprise by this, because my press with Ayutthaya, like, the vibes I was getting from Ayutthaya were really good all through this phase. This player, like, really led me on very well. And as a result, the stab is absolutely devastating. I've lost a lot. Thankfully not everything, because this Mindoro province being here is actually really good for me, in that it stops a coordinated attack against either of these, right? From these two fleets. But certainly down here, everything's screwed. Up here, everything's screwed, and like this is just... it's just a sitting duck after that point.
It's fine. It's like, it's fine. How many centers are it? It's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Five centers?
5 centers.
That's fine.
It's alright. Like, 5 centers are not that much, right? I'm on 36, so I can survive that.
Yeah, it's rough, but not the end of the world.
It was really painful. And then everywhere else is going okay. You can see this is beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, that is glorious. Yeah. That's wonderful.
I might remove.
Oh, the convoy gets bounced, which is not great.
I was really hoping this convoy would go through. It getting bounced is annoying. It's not the end of the world, right?
It's still fine, yeah. Like, all of the armies moving south is still good pressure.
Yep, and Portugal manages to hold their line here, with a good guess on that front, although they do lose Rio de Janeiro at the same time. And they're still just fighting Netherlands in, like, this conflict that's... like, South America was just chaos for a lot of this.
Yeah.
You'll note that the Netherlands tried to support Pano up to Madeira as well, which would have been a bit painful if Aymara had taken it, so I'm glad I got the right vibes from them.
Yeah. You read this really well. Like, your strength every turn has been picking the right person to attack you and who's going to not attack you. Mm-hmm. And so all of your decisions have been just masterful. Getting Aymara to walk away from you, getting France to disband, disband, and then getting Ottomans to disband, and then reading who's attacking you and who's not. You know, that the Ottomans aren't attacking you here. Like, you've just been fantastic on every read. So that's sweet. Hey, Panama didn't do what you said it was going to do, and is taking Belize instead.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the exact agreement here was. I remember, yeah. So England proposed that we swap Bahamas for Belize at this point. And I was like, yeah.
Swapping Bahamas.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
I'm very happy not to be on the front line here, because again, that gives me more of an excuse to play both sides, especially now that I'm on good terms. It's not good terms with France. They are not happy with me, but we're working together, regardless. I'm very happy to not be on the front line here and to take the English build center that's in the middle of my area and give them one that's on the front line.
Yeah.
That's just perfect, right? So this was all agreed with England still, and I am pressing in on Shoshone. At this point, I'm like starting to wonder, hang on, how am I gonna, like, how are we gonna split this area? Because right now the split isn't looking very fair between myself and Athabasca, right? If you look at who's gonna get what, where would you say the natural split between Spain and Athabasca on this is?
You get Baja California and Arapaho, and Athabasca gets everything else.
Yes. I think that is exactly what it was gunning towards, and I was looking at this and thinking, is there any way that I can, like, negotiate any more out of that? Because that feels bad to just take 2 centers total, one of which is incredibly indefensible. But I didn't really see a way, and Athabasca was pretty insistent on getting the bulk of this stuff, right? Which I think is kind of fair looking at the leaderboard. They were like saying, I need to be a strong power too in order to continue being your ally. So
yeah,
I mean that negotiation absolutely works. Well done, Athabasca. So I'm just like, yeah, okay, sure, we'll do that then. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else is happening here. I think that might be all of the important stuff. This unit comes down to Regibat, primarily because I think Portugal asked for support against Mali or something along those lines, and I didn't want to obviously go and annoy move these armies this way to annoy Ottomans now that I'm on decent terms with them and we're working together against Austria. So this bounce here was agreed as well, and this bounce here was agreed. But this incursion into Africa isn't going to last very long. I think it's like, this is maybe one of the noteworthy things about my general approach to the game. I don't like rogue units very much. I don't know what your opinion on them is, Ezio. I'm interested to hear, actually.
Me having rogue units, or other people having rogue units in my line?
So, okay, it's different when it's in your line, right? So a rogue unit, for people who don't know, is a unit that like goes off and does its own thing and isn't really connected to the rest of your army. It can go behind someone else's lines and break them, or in a variant like this, it's more generally a unit that's like on its own in a theater. So if I go into the Sahara Desert here and start harassing Mali, that would be a rogue unit, right? Because it's not coordinating at all with the rest of my forces. It's not really... It might gain me one center, but it's not going to gain me a defensible center, yeah? So that's what I'm talking about here. Are you in favor of doing that yourself, or not?
The Sahara here, I probably would not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I care about rogue units if I need to do a little bit of power balancing in the standard game, and if I have an occasion to use it, like to really hurt a power that I want to help, that I want to hurt. Like if I want to keep Portugal alive, and then if Mali was running away with it, and they need to be slowed down, I could see an argument there. But I don't seek them out. I usually rather have units in my actual army. In a map like this. In standard diplomacy, I think rogue units are nuts because the stalemate lines just don't account for them.
Yes.
So if you got a rogue unit and can afford it while still being strong, you solo a lot. But this isn't that. So in these types of boards, I don't know.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. In standard diplomacy, they're fantastic. If you get a unit behind the stalemate line, you can break the stalemate line. But here, this isn't a stalemate line. This would just be harassing other people. I think... Like, I can't remember what triggered me to go here in the first place, but I very quickly realized, hang on, I don't really want to be getting involved in whatever politics are happening over here. I would like to keep everyone happy, and the best way to keep everyone happy is to not be involved in whatever they're doing. So, yeah, that incursion doesn't last very long. I think that more or less covers what's going on, at least in my areas of the board. Do you want to move on to the next phase?
Yeah, let's see it.
Alright, retreats don't really matter that much. We're going to the full moves here. So, I do convoy over here, but it looks like it bounces, right? But no, the Ottoman unit cuts the support from Naples, so I do get my army into Rome here, which is huge, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's an extra center, and having an army in Rome is good. France is continuing the attack against Austria, so you can support independence. That's sweet.
Yeah, and notably, I've still got 2 armies standing here on the French border, right? Just support holding each other constantly, because, like, what else do they have to do? They're just there as defensive units. I built and no longer need, I'm sure.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So it serves 2 purposes, right? For one, even if Portugal gets super strong, they can't really build armies here because I've got these units here. And second, they are poised to just go into France, especially if they overcommit to the Austrian front, which feels like what they're currently doing. Yeah. So, if we go over to North America for one... Oh, okay, so this is actually quite an important phase. Because I do take Belize, right? Which was the agreed swap for Bahamas. But I also stab England in Baracoa and Catawba. And the reason for this is just I am working with France now, at least on this front. And there's dots open, and I'm like, I would like to start actually gaining control of the Caribbean now.
And France in the Caribbean has been mostly crushed. So, I mean, France is losing in the Caribbean. So it makes sense that now England is going to be more of a threat here. So let's stop that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's partially dots. It's also partially like I'm working with them. I think this is the opportunity, and like, yeah, we can neuter England's power a little bit here. Although it's gonna be a bit of a fight, right? They do have a lot of fleets in this area, so that could end up being kind of painful.
And if they can work it out, you're screwed. But really, here's hoping they can't.
Yeah, notably, like, England was really bitter about this French opening. I was kind of relying on that and hoping, even if I attack England here, I don't think there's any way they actually work things out with France. I think they would rather kill the French units than figure out a way to come back against me. So I was really hoping for that, anyway. And the response I got from that, I absolutely justified it, actually. So, I also position on Norfolk here. The response I get from England after doing this is basically, I can't believe it took you this long to, like, pile in on me after everyone else had done it, like, so many years ago. It's whatever, you can just have those dots. Just let me kill France.
Oh... Oh yeah! Oh yeah!
That is exactly what you want to hear.
That.
Yeah.
You're saying I can have these thoughts and you'll still attack my enemies? Oh baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So actually, it goes a little further than that. We end up talking it out a little bit more, and we figure out what England wants in the long term, which is basically, well, England's primary objective: kill France, kill Netherlands, because they were the people who ruined England's game, right? But England's secondary objective, they want to become commander of the Caribbean. So they're saying, you can do whatever you like, as long as basically let me have control of all of these islands by the end of the game, and I'll just be your navy from that point. And
Okay.
I've been good friends with England through this game, right? I definitely... It's definitely a little bit like, do I want to do that? Because I feel like I would prefer my fleets to be there for obvious reasons. But it's also, they have a lot of fleets mobilized, and I don't have a great number of places to build those fleets that are immediately accessible to the North Atlantic and the South Atlantic, right? So
Sure.
I'm kind of happy to let them do that.
Yeah, as
Especially
long
if...
as we're still putting down fleets in St. Augustine and Panama and maybe Saltillo also.
Yeah, every so often. But if
Oh, I mean,
they...
like 3 fleets this phase, yeah.
Yeah. Basically, I think if they're telling the truth here, it's a pretty decent offer. I think it... I don't know. I don't know whether I should have taken it or not, but I did
I mean,
take
I
it.
always
Right?
accept it, but whenever people offer me centers and say, you can take my dots, I call their bluff. I
Right.
say, great, thank you. I will take your centers now.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. It again shows the difference in our approach to this game, I think. Because
Yeah.
my decision here was basically, okay, yeah, I'll let you be the Pirates of the Caribbean. You can take all of this. Although I do later negotiate it down in terms of what they can take. I think they initially wanted Havana and Baracoa, right, as
Yeah, of
like long
course.
term
But
things,
yeah,
and
but no, it's like,
I go no.
no, I'll give you every center that France has in the Caribbean. I'll give you the centers that Poland has in the Caribbean. You can have all that stuff, but I'll take Jamaica. That one's going to be mine. And I need to see your fleets moving to the east. Meanwhile, I'll take Norfolk, and I'm going to send these units north. Like, yeah, I'm happy to let you do this stuff, but I'm also going to ensure that you don't have all the leverage here and you can't stab me once you've dealt with France.
Hmm.
Because that's what I'm looking at here, as they've got still 5 fleets and an army in the Caribbean to my 2 fleets, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I need to balance this out because that's my balance of power. Um, yeah.
But, like, think,
So
if you can trust the English fleets here, right? If you do just decide, yeah, they're gonna work with me, you save so many builds. Because you've got
I mean,
4 fleets, 5 fleets
but look at how
already
many
out.
centers I'm going to take when I dot them. When I take all their centers, like those fleets are going to
Yeah,
pay
but
for
you can do
themselves.
that long term anyway, right?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
they're
yeah.
acting as your navy and they manage to take this and then they start pushing out, then you can just walk into everything behind them, just at the end
Yeah,
of the
but like,
game.
ain't no guarantee they walk out.
Yeah, that is the downside. You do have to trust them a little bit.
A lot.
Okay, yes, it is. It is quite a lot. You do
If
have to
I
trust
was
them.
England saying that to you, is there any world where you don't build a bunch of fleets?
Hmm. Yeah, I would not trust you with this. This is true.
Yeah, and like it's just I don't know. I have yet to find a player who would take out all of France's centers in the Caribbean and then send all their fleets out into the Pacific or Atlantic. Jesus, I got there eventually. Like, who would do that?
Yeah, so as the game progresses, we will definitely see some things to do with that, and maybe why your concerns might be valid.
All
Although,
right.
right now, I'm gonna stick with England, and they also
Yeah.
requested, like, obviously they're requesting Havana and Baracoa. I'm
Yeah.
eventually going to talk my way out of that, although I initially say yes. They also request that I leave them Jamaica, and this I actually do.
Sure.
I'm fairly certain I can just walk into it later if I need to, right? It's two
Yeah, but
steps
this
away
is
from
definitely
that
a
building.
deal that you like agree to or don't agree to. It's like you
Hmm.
either agree to let them do it, and then you just like don't take it. Like you're not gonna not build any fleets and then take Jamaica
Hmm.
in the same
Yeah.
year. That's just crazy.
Yes.
So it's like you build a bunch of fleets and say, yeah, you can go and kill France, then I'm going to take Jamaica and I'll help you kill France quickly. Like you can do that, that's fine. But if you don't build fleets, you cannot antagonize England
Yeah.
in the Caribbean. That's definitely true.
I think they also wanted me to leave Norfolk alone, which I think I do. But we'll get to that later. So
Yeah.
Shoshone is slowly falling apart here, but it's very, very slow. I don't know what this... Oh, this is supporting the Japanese against me, but Japan doesn't take the support, which is nice. It's, again, kind of the... I guess the big colonial threat. People don't want to annoy you, especially just with 1 or 2 units, if you have the potential to kick back at them with a lot of units. So Tokugawa is not helping Shoshone out here. I don't actually make very much progress, and Athapaska is just advancing at a crawl here, but we are slowly taking them out. And then in the south, I do get a little bit of an advance on Netherlands. I do give Aymara Madeira deliberately here.
Okay.
Mainly just to throw them a bone,
Give
right?
them some builds, make them happy, I guess.
Then they don't have anything guaranteed, and I don't know. I haven't been paying much attention to it so far, but the Mapuche player has gotten so good with their guesses in this game, and just generally their defensive tactics, that we weren't particularly confident in getting anything until it was guaranteed, right?
Sure.
You'll note that they successfully cut the Portuguese support of this move to Cordoba here. They do successfully bounce the convoy into Santiago as well, I believe.
Yep. They got Netherlands to cut Bahia. So that's on the east.
Yes.
So they keep Rio de Janeiro.
Just generally
Yep.
fantastic play from Mapuche, and they get into Chiloé and kick my unit out.
Yeah.
With this.
Are they +2?
Hang on. Wait, we can see. Wait, we'll look at that in a sec. I think
Sure.
that... Oh, they lose the Malvinas here.
Okay. Great. But they gained Rio, they gained Chiloé, and they didn't lose anything, right?
Well, they lost Las Malvinas.
Yeah. It's not. Did they lose anything in Australia?
No, they guessed right there as well.
Man.
Yeah, this player was so good with their guesswork and with their tactics, it was just kind of insane. It became a bit of a meme through the game. Importantly, like, I just give Aymara this one as like, hey, you can have a dot. I'm getting very large anyway. I feel like it's worth it to keep you on side here. And we make 0 progress in this direction. We did have some guaranteed progress we could have made, right? But we didn't go for it. Things like if we just dedicated Kalama to helping on this attack instead, I think there are ways we could do it.
I don't think that's guaranteed anymore. That's not great.
It's possible if we support Askunshan through, that could also be a I think I remember this right, because Aymara wanted the dot. They were like quite insistent that they had the dot, and Portugal was like, I would really quite like this because this is the way that we guarantee it, and then I can backfill with Mato Grosso, and then it doesn't matter too much if I lose this, right? Because I'm getting the refund on Cordoba, but Aymara really wanted the dot here, so they did it this way around and then got cut. So yeah, this really didn't go very well. We could have tacticked it better, and we did not.
It's fine.
So yeah, that makes for South and North America. I've already talked about Europe, right? And Africa, I'm moving this back because I was like, I'm not getting involved.
Yep.
And I'm still just staying friendly with Ottomans. They even back out of Gadames as like a friendly thing here.
Sweet. And we don't have to look at the Philippines, right? We can just skip it.
Here we are going to look at the Philippines because some magic happens.
Wow.
This was insane.
Wow.
So I spent a while... So this was kind of an interesting one because after the previous phase when Ayatollah stabbed me, I went to a diplomacy tournament in the UK, which was the UK National Championships, and I met the Ayutthaya player there. And we spent the whole time not
Oh,
talking about
man.
this game, right? Because we were not allowed to talk about this game as per the rules. But we did play a lot of diplomacy together and just were... Well, he stabbed me a lot, actually, but there, there's like some degree of camaraderie that comes about as a result of that, right? And I think it definitely helped it. Even though we never talked about the game, we were like very deliberately not talking about the game. And so then when negotiating, it's just like you can feel that slight change of attitude when you've met someone. And I feel like that definitely contributed to this. I was over the moon when I actually saw that they'd accepted it. I'd basically written this entire theatre off. I was like, okay, this is my last-ditch effort to keep it. If Ayutthaya doesn't accept this, I don't care. I'm just going to lose everything, so I'll just leave everything open and go all in on this. And they did. I was just like, wow. Okay. Fine. I get to keep my land here, I guess. Although not all of it. I lose Monado, and I don't gain Formosa. But this is
That's
huge.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're so happy considering how things looked. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. This was kind of a lucky break in the timing of when that tournament happened, because it was on this phase. So I don't know that I'd have been able to convince him if I hadn't just met him in person.
Probably not, but hey,
Yeah,
it's sweet.
it's how it goes sometimes. And yeah, this is just really nice. I was really, really happy with this. And Ayutthaya actually gets quite a lot out of this, right? They're still in a very dominant position over me. They have Sulu C, which is naturally mine, and they shouldn't be in, but they get to be pushed through. They get Banjarmasin, they get position on Batavia. They were... I don't know what they were planning to do here. I think maybe they didn't know that, 3 was tapping Sumatra, and they were hoping to just slip in. But yeah, the Dutch back off to Monado, and I'm suddenly in position to put Ayutthaya in. And I think as part of this deal, I'm basically like, okay, I'll just sit on these 4 and never do anything to you.
Sweet.
Yeah. Which I think will take us to what we're going to cut off, where we're going to cut off this video, which will be the builds of 1644. With me, I'm slightly less far ahead than I previously was. Poland is now at 37.1%.
Yeah, except it's Poland, so.
Yeah, so Poland is really doing well here. We haven't really been looking at this very much, but they absolutely brutally murdered Sweden with Salt's assistance. They have been, solidly allied with Salt, which is something I'm quite envious of. I feel like every game Salt finds someone and allies tightly with them, and that is never going to be me.
And whose fault is that, really?
It's Salt's. I'm someone who's perfectly happy to work with people. I'll have you know.
Uh-huh.
Okay, fine. I realise that you've had the experience of being Salt's #1 ally, right? In the Hellenic Diplomacy game.
Yes. And having a good game of diplomacy with him. I believe it can happen.
I do not. But anyway, this
Yep, it's
Poland managed to pull it
impossible.
off.
Tangents. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why there's an Austrian unit in Jutland. I might need to look back at this game at some point just to see how they got there. But Poland's doing generally quite well here, working solidly with Salt. They've still got their 2 units in the Caribbean, and they're doing pretty alright over here in Africa as well, basically being Mali's second. They're just yeah, being very friendly.
Yeah, but meanwhile, they're in a former Mali core,
Uh,
and also, right, that's the of the future core, right? They don't start
yes,
with it,
yeah,
but
yeah,
that's a good place to be. And then they have a good potential stab on Mali.
they
So
do.
that's a really nice position to have for Poland.
I, but yeah, Poland is one of those powers that can look a lot stronger than it is because it can suddenly collapse in these kind of areas, right? It's very hard to solidify them properly, just because of how small they are. But in third place, we've got Russia. That's Salt. Admittedly, he's also experiencing some problems, especially from Safavids, who have Astrakhan up here and a bunch of units pushing in on his line. And then we have Safavid in the next place. So basically, it's everyone who's far away from me.
Sweet.
But yeah, they are getting a little closer to me, and I only get 3 builds this turn, so not as many as I have had on previous years, despite stabbing England 4-3. Yeah, so we'll go ahead to the builds, I guess, as in the build results.
Let's see it.
You do know I do put down a fleet on this coast despite my agreement with England, just to make sure that I have something here. And then West Coast of Mexico City. And where's my... Oh, my last build will be over here, yeah, Fleet Cebu. Because I don't want to leave this completely undefended.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Alright.
This is a fantastic position.
Yeah.
Very excited to see how this goes.
So how would you see this playing out going forward, I guess? Where...
I think Athapaska's going to kill Shoshone and then hit you, and you're going to be very sad about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Ottomans are going to work with Austria to realize, oh no, if we keep fighting, we're going to lose. And so we actually have to work against Spain. Except your position's kind of brutal, like you're going to take Gadmines, and I don't know if they can stop you. I think the France and the Netherlands are going to say, we have been great allies. We really should probably work together against Spain in South America. Maybe we can get Poland on side in that front. And then Aymara is going to realize that they're not going to get anything out of this war against Mapuche. And even if they are successful, you're going to take all the centers from them, and they're going to turn against you. And then in the Philippines, Athapaska is going to say, hey, I have a fleet in the Sulu Sea, and I want your dots. And then you're going to take your dots.
I mean, that's certainly one way to look at what could happen. You don't seem very optimistic.
Everyone looks at you and says, oh, you're big and scary, and I don't want to piss you off, so I'm going to keep doing your bidding.
I think maybe it might end up somewhere between those two.
I have to fight so much harder for my game, man. You're just giving you stuff.
Okay.
Alright. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Something important that you mentioned here was Ottomans and Austria working together against me, right? Potentially. I think that could be good play, but at this point, Ottomans are getting destroyed by Abyssinia in the south. And they are basically just saying to me, hey, given that Austria was attacking me before as well, I'm happy to continue working with you. Like, just don't attack me anywhere here or take Sicily. And I'm happy to do that. And I think they asked me to help bounce them over Gdames and stuff like that. I'm very happy with that as well. So... It's just a lot of talking to people and making sure they're all feeling okay. Like, especially the people who are getting attacked from elsewhere. People like Portugal as well, who have just kind of collapsed elsewhere. Just making sure that you're their best friend.
Hell yeah.
And that's why I'm so insecure about this area, because it's the one area where I don't have anyone who is like that. Anyway.
Yeah. Let's see how things go.
Yeah,
next time.
That brings us to the end of part 1. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time.